kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
down to earth,
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
and most importantly, honest,
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel. Well, a very, very good morning, everybody. Europe's threat from within, though, eh?
Yes, US Vice President J.D. Vance, he derailed the Munich Security Conference, didn't he, denouncing the state of free speech in this country.
And what I worry about is the threat from within, the retreat of Europe from some of its most fundamental values, values shared with the United States of America. In Britain and across Europe, free speech, I fear, is in retreat.
Yeah, really excited for this morning show because we've got so much coming up, including this. Boris Johnson speaks out, urging President Trump not to leave Ukraine behind.
And so what Trump is trying to say to the Europeans, to us Brits, to everyone, is man up and step up.
Yes, Boris Johnson sounding much more optimistic than most European leaders here. But J.D. Vance's speech has really gone down like a lead balloon, not just having a go at Europe over free speech, but also for allowing millions of migrants migrants in and drawing a direct link with the terror attack here just the other day.
OK, and is this a bit awkward? Donald Trump reveals Sir Keir Starmer has come to him to seek out a meeting. Is the Labour leader a little bit desperate to salvage that special relationship?
Asked for a meeting, and I agreed to the meeting. We're going to have a friendly meeting. Very good. We have a lot of good things going on.
I love that clip. We've got a longer version to play you later. But more migration lunacy here because reports of a Zimbabwean paedophile allowed to stay in the UK because of fears he might face hostility if he returns home.
Oh, dear. And as the 80th anniversary of Victory Day approaches, we find out how a community in South Yorkshire is honouring its war heroes.
And let me tell you, this is absolute gold. Get ready, because a CEO at JP Morgan has unleashed an attack on work-from-home young Gen Z staff. This is leaked audio. Are you ready for it?
And don't give me this work from home Friday works. I call a lot of people on Friday. There's not a goddamn person to get a hold of.
Someone's angry. Anyway, it was a Valentine's Day massacre for Chelsea last night at the Amex as they crashed to a heavy defeat down at Brighton. And have Manchester City struck a blow in their legal battle with the Premier League? We'll find out later.
Good morning. A cloudy and cold start for many of us, including a risk of snow and ice in the northeast, but it should turn brighter later. To find out where, stay tuned and I'll have all the details.
Well, it's just gone 6 o'clock, as you've been listening to there and seeing. We have got an action-packed breakfast show for you today. I'm Patrick Christys.
And I'm Emily Carver, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Well, I just thought we'd start by saying, Aidan, I don't know if you're aware of this, but you are in the presence of the 40th power couple.
I read this.
In Britain.
I was impressed.
There we go. So there's nothing. There's nothing like waking up on Valentine's Day morning, is there, Emily? Every woman's dream to find that we are rock bottom of the country's power couple list.
Yeah, but there could be hundreds of people considered for this, you know.
Oh yes,
I know somebody who works on the Times top 500 rich list, and they consider thousands of entrants or possibles.
Just to be on the list. Just to be on the list,
top
Pat,
40,
you should be chuffed.
Top 40 could be in quite a narrow percentage at the top.
Just to clarify, it's not the rich list. Unfortunately, it's Westminster power couples.
Yeah, so who else was on the list?
Well, Morgan McSweeney is Keir Starmer's advisor. Was on there.
And Keir Starmer, presumably, was on there.
Well, yeah, and there's a
his
few
wife.
people. So when you put it in that context, I suppose that we're actually doing OK.
I think we're doing all right. Number 40 out of 40.
40 out of 40.
The only way is up, really.
Well, quite literally.
Unless we get booted off next year.
I think as long as we have breath in our bodies, we'll probably get up to the top 35 next year.
But apparently we're the sweethearts of GB News, so that's nice, isn't it?
It is.
It is.
That's nice.
But we, of course, weren't the only ones who were celebrating Valentine's Day yesterday. There have been a couple of other little posts knocking around, haven't there? I think there's some stuff from Meghan and Harry doing the rounds, wasn't there? I think we've got a bit of that. There we are.
Oh, big smooch.
Look at the lovebirds.
Look at the lovebirds.
Oh.
What do you reckon to that?
Well, we're going to be talking about this because Meghan's been posting some videos of their children as well, which is a bit of a departure from their usual protocol. I think we've got the proper royals now, though, haven't we? There we are. Oh, good. Good. That's taken from the video, isn't it? I think that Kate and Wills did when she was announcing that she was in remission from cancer.
Just a kiss on the cheek.
Lovely.
More demure.
Just quite subtle, yeah.
More subtle. We don't need to see the lips locked.
The smooch.
We don't need to see the big smacker, do we?
Pucker up. Do you have an answer on Thursday? I think you struck me as, an old-school romantic.
I went to Coventry. And
there it is.
QPR lost 1-0, unfortunately, so it was a nice way to spend the week, if you like, not necessarily the day.
No, but good for you, though, mate, sticking to your guns.
Yeah, went to Stoke last year, so...
Well, yeah, what next? Milton Keynes.
You know what? We had a really nice Valentine's Day because we had the day off yesterday from our usual shows, and you took me out for a lovely lunch.
I did. We went to watch Bridget Jones as well.
We did go to see Bridget Jones. We got lots to say about Bridget Jones.
I'm seeing that on Sunday.
Actually.
Well, we did because someone was talking all the way through the film. I'm going to be really getting stuck into that.
Oh, 2 two people.
In a minute.
A bit of a tearjerker,
couple
isn't
next
it?
to us.
Well, I couldn't tell because they were talking all the way through. But anyway, right, sorry, we're being shouted at. So, to the top story. It's, big story, this. The threat from within, isn't it?
Yeah, the Vice President, he's launched a scathing attack on European leaders at the Munich Security Conference.
So, J.D. Vance accused governments and leaders of abandoning their values and ignoring voter concerns. Here's a clip of him getting stuck.
The threat that I worry the most about vis-a-vis Europe is not Russia, it's not China, it's not any other external actor. And what I worry about is the threat from within, the retreat of Europe from some of its most fundamental values, values shared with the United States of America. In Britain and across Europe, free speech, I fear, is in retreat. An offer.
There you go, J.D. Vance. He narrowed in on our free speech laws right here in the United Kingdom. He singled us out as the worst, in his view, saying Brexit was proof of voters wanting tighter borders.
Yeah, it really was. Well, his speech, unsurprisingly, has caused a bit of a backlash from Europe's elite. A former Brexit coordinator, Guy Verhofstadt, dismissed him as having no legitimacy.
What?
Which is ridiculous.
Vice President of the United States.
Vice President of the United States. But anyway, the German Defence Minister, as well, slammed his remarks as unacceptable, which, can I just say, is hilarious, because he's talking about free speech, and then the German Defence Minister says it's unacceptable. But we go now to Catherine Forster, I believe, don't we? Who is over there for us in Munich, our political correspondent. Catherine, quite the day.
Yes, good morning from a very chilly Munich. If you're watching on the TV, you can see behind me this incredible Theatine church, a Baroque church built in 1660. It really is quite something. We are next to the Munich Security Conference. We're so early that they won't even let us in yet, but it began yesterday, and suffice to say, there has been a lot going on. So I spoke to Boris Johnson for GB News exclusively yesterday. He was very upbeat about the noises coming out of the United States. He says that Donald Trump isn't going to abandon Ukraine, and that we all just need to step up and pay more for defence, because Europe clearly has not really been paying its way on that for many, many years. But what has really gone down like a lead balloon here is J.D. Vance, the Vice President's 20-minute speech yesterday. What European leaders were hoping and expecting to hear from him was some sort of reassurance, really, about European security, about Ukraine. And that was, frankly, barely mentioned. Now, he did at the beginning say that they would get a reasonable settlement. He did make it clear to Europe they needed to step up for their own security. Donald Trump wants the whole of Europe to be spending 5% of GDP on defence. That's a very, very long way off that. But basically, the whole of the rest of the speech was pretty much a telling off of Europe on two things: free speech and migration. On free speech, he singled out the United Kingdom, and particularly Scotland, as being the worst offenders, talking about an army reservists fined for praying silently. Also drew a direct line between the suspected terror attack just here a couple of days ago and huge numbers of people coming into Europe over the last year. Now, it's gone down very, very badly here with most people, but there are elections in 10 days' time. The AfD surging in the polls. They are quite delighted by what he's had to say, and I do think that a lot of voters will have thought there was a fair point in saying, you know, you might not like sometimes what the public are telling you, but you do need to listen to them. And if you don't, you can expect them to vote for somebody else.
Yeah, and Catherine, this has been framed by some media outlets and, of course, by some European leaders as an attack on Europe. Was it an attack on Europe, though, or was it an attack on policy choices? Was it an attack on various European leaders and the decisions that they've made, rather than an attack on our continent?
Well, J.D. Vance would clearly say it was an attack on choices that European leaders have made rather than Europe itself. And I think, first of all, I'd urge you to listen to the whole speech if you haven't. It's a Saturday if you've got a bit of time. We should really listen to what J.D. Vance says, not only because he's got an extraordinary backstory. He grew up in an incredibly dysfunctional working class background, quite violent. The fact that he's now vice president is nothing short of miraculous, frankly. And also because, like what he says or not, he's very articulate. He speaks in a much more coherent way, perhaps, than Donald Trump. And also, Donald Trump can't stand again. It is very, very possible that J.D. Vance could be president in just a few years' time.
Well, absolutely. Catherine, thank you very, very much. And we're going to be talking to you again at the top of every hour, I think. And there's a lot to go at because, you know, there's been more updates today, other dignitaries arriving, etc. So, Catherine, you take care from a very chilly Munich. Catherine Forster there, political correspondent. I mean, look, I just thought this was absolutely exceptional. I'll be honest with you. You know, people expected him to talk about China and about Russia, but actually, who was he talking to? Well, he was talking to a load of European leaders, and he set his stall out and he said, you've knackered this continent, haven't you? Look at mass immigration. There was a bloke who, an Afghan asylum seeker who drove a car through a load of people the day before he was there. You've got free speech issues going on left, right and centre. And let's be honest, what do European citizens really feel? Do they think that their leaders, the people who are in that room, have made Europe better over the last 20 years? Maybe people do. I suspect a lot do.
I mean, what's the response from some of these European leaders and bureaucrats? It's to say he's attacking us, to dismiss what he's saying, to call it a rant, to call it a scathing attack and all this. Well, I'm sorry, whether you agree with him or not, is it not slightly concerning that many an American thinks this way about Europe, has this perception of Europe, has the idea that Europe is going in a completely wrong direction? Well, it's not great, is it?
It's not great. And we have got a little clip just before we go to our next guest on this. So this is some of the stuff that J.D. Vance said about Britain. This is the perception that our US friends and allies, our special relationship, have of Keir Starmer's Britain and Scotland as well.
And what I worry about is the threat from within, the retreat of Europe from some of its most fundamental values, values shared with the United States of America. In Britain and across Europe, free speech, I fear, is in retreat. I look to our very dear friends, the United Kingdom. A little over 2 years ago, the British government charged Adam Smith Connor, a 51-year-old physiotherapist and an Army veteran, with the heinous crime of standing 50 meters from an abortion clinic and silently praying for 3 minutes.
So there you go, J.D. Vance pointing out a very particular story about, well, that he believes demonstrates how free speech is fundamentally under threat and also expression of religion. Should we talk to political commentator Andy Preston? Andy, your reaction to that clip we just played where he decides to single out a particular story in the United Kingdom. It's pretty clear that J.D. Vance and Donald Trump as well and Elon Musk are very concerned about what's happening in this country.
Hi, morning, everyone. Well, like, wow. I mean, where did this come from? I mean, listen, perception was a word that I think you used earlier, and it is all about perception, isn't it? I mean, aside from the fact they should be talking about the Ukraine, about defense, about the oppression and annexation of countries by Russia, to go into the idea of free speech and decaying values, it has some merit. But is there really such a big issue in this country? And when we look and take lectures from the US, with their astonishing problems of gun crime, the murder rate is far worse there. There are far more people killed by crazy people in the States than ever happens in Europe in a month and even in a year over here. It's quite bizarre to get the lectures, but perceptions, as you said, are important. Perceptions are everything, and we have a perception of them, and they seem to have a perception of us. But I have to say, this perception seems to be a Trump-Vance thing rather than the Americans that I know and listen to. This seems to be a very much Donald Trump-Vance dynamic.
Well, I think one thing that is fascinating was what he was talking about, essentially, when it comes to multiculturalism, immigration, etc., and saying that it's all very well and good talking about the external threats, which he acknowledged do very much exist, Putin, Xi Jinping, etc., but we also have to remember what it is that we are defending. It's all very well and good saying that we are, we need to stop Putin, we need to stop the march of China, but we need to remember why we're doing it and whether or not we've lost that. And, it was just the day before, I think, wasn't it, that this failed Afghan asylum seeker committed that atrocity in Munich, which is where this is being held. I do think he's got a right, given that America are deporting a lot of people now and slamming their borders shut, to criticise Europe for maybe being quite weak when it comes to multiculturalism and immigration.
I think there's some truth in that, Patrick, and I do think that many of the British public and European public would agree with that. I mean, for example, just this week, we've had a story emerge across the UK about hate preachers. I know that you've covered it. A really amazing thing. But what terrified me about the hate preachers is that I talked about this on Friday online on social media, and the wall of abuse that I got back defending them. So it wasn't the fact that the hate preachers were coming, it was actually the defence of them, people trying to shut me down, saying that I was against free speech. So the argument for free speech does go both ways. I do think that Vance is allowed to criticise, he's allowed to come and give his views, but I do think that right now, today, the Ukraine, the Putin situation, and the potential of escalation, because appeasing oppressors like Putin never works in the long term. The boss of NATO has warned that. I do think Vance has got bigger fish to fry right now.
OK, well, Andy Preston, thank you very much indeed, political commentator, thank you. I do think he's right, though, J.D. Vance, that we do have a threat from within. I mean, how can you deny it? In Germany, you've had terror attack after terror attack after attack from, unfortunately, people who have arrived in Germany as asylum seekers.
Look, it's all very
It's just a fact.
It's all very well and good saying, and this is a problem, clearly, that Putin might run through Europe and all of this. But what is it we're defending?
Exactly. That's the crucial point. You need to know what you're defending in order to. It's civilization. You're defending a civilization, and what exactly does that civilization stand for?
Well, when you walk around now vast parts of the United Kingdom, do you recognise it? Have we let that go? And it does seem a little bit ridiculous, in my view, to be spending so much money defending the external borders of Europe, whilst not having any borders really in this country.
Also, you could say Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, America needs to get, itself in order before they start slagging off Europe. But hang on, this is a new administration in America.
Yeah.
And they've, started doing quite a lot, haven't they?
Well, we'll see what happens. We're going to be talking about this quite a lot. I'm very keen to hear from you. You can see the link on your screen there, gbnews.com/YourSay. And I love doing the breakfast shows because I get to actually interact with the viewers a lot more than I do in the evenings normally. So
you're just talking at people in the evening.
Yes, let the anger build up over the course of the day and then dish it out in the news. Anyway, shall we have a little look at some of the other stories coming into the newsroom, shall we?
Yes, Pope Francis, he remains in hospital for bronchitis treatment, but he's in a stable condition with a slight fever at the moment. Now, the 88-year-old was admitted after struggling with breathing issues, but had continued public engagements until Friday. Now, his meetings have been cancelled until at least Monday. It's unclear at the moment how long he'll be staying in hospital.
So the Attorney-General, Lord Hermer, has rejected calls to review the 52-year sentence of Southport murderer Axel Rudy Cabana, ruling there is no legal basis to increase it. The 18-year-old was jailed in January for murdering 3 young girls and attempting to kill 10 others in a brutal attack at a children's dance class. The government says the case marks a line in the sand as ministers outline next steps to prevent similar incidents.
And elsewhere, a large fire at the celebrity favourite Chiltern Firehouse in London on Valentine's Day forced around 100 people to evacuate. The blaze rapidly spread to the roof, as you can see, with 20 fire engines deployed to the scene. Now, the luxury hotel, known for hosting A-listers aplenty, will likely face a major refurbishment. Now, that's just days before it was due to host Netflix BAFTA party. Now, the cause of the fire is currently under investigation.
Well, shall we have a little look at what the weather's doing with Honor Criswick?
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Over the weekend, we can expect outbreaks of rain, some hill snow, also some ice at times, but it is going to gradually turn milder from the southwest. Here, though, is where we're likely to see quite a cloudy and wet start across the southwest parts of Wales, central and northeastern parts of England. Could see some snow across northeastern parts too, which also brings a risk of ice. The best of the brightness likely to the far northwest of Scotland, but it will also eventually brighten up across parts of Devon and Cornwall too. For many, it is going to be a chillier day, but starting to turn slightly milder across parts of the southwest, particularly by the afternoon. So to end the day on Saturday then, plenty of clear skies across the southwest, so likely seeing quite a nice sunset, but that's where it's going to turn chilly overnight, likely to see some patchy frost. Elsewhere, there's plenty of cloud around, so quite a murky evening on offer, low clouds, some outbreaks of rain and drizzle, and still a risk we could start to see some snow, particularly around North Sea coasts, mainly across high ground, though we could see some flurries to lower levels too. Plenty of clear skies to the northwest of Scotland. Here, once again, we're likely to see some patchy frost. Then overnight we see this area of cloud and rain slowly shift its way northeastwards. As it does tend to fizzle out a little bit, but still going to leave plenty of cloud. Still a chance we could see some drizzly outbreaks and still a risk of snow to higher ground, particularly in the northeast. But largely dry and clear across the southwest and across the northwest of Scotland. But here it is going to be chilly with that risk of frost by the time we reach the morning. As this area of cloud and rain continues to push northeastwards, there's also a chance we could see some freezing rain along this feature. So once again, a chance we could see some ice. But for many across Wales, southern parts of England, a drier day on offer compared to Saturday, though a return of the cloud and rain from the very far west, which will affect Northern Ireland later. And for most, another chilly day on offer, but still mildest across the southwest. Bye-bye.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
OK, well, still to come, veterans in South Yorkshire, they're being honoured by locals in a very special way. Find out more next. This is GB News Breakfast with Patrick and Emily.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome back. We've got loads more coming your way, including a ridiculous way that our government has decided to try to deter people from Albania coming to Britain. But before all that, veterans in South Yorkshire have gathered at a new breakfast club which aims to bring former members of the armed forces together.
Yes, the launch is ahead of the 80th anniversary of VE Day in May.
Well, our reporter Anna Riley was at the event and has this story.
He came in by aeroplane, dropped by his parachute.
That was it?
Yeah,
that were our job.
4 drums of avgas, straight through centre bar tent. 2 cans of beer were ruined, but with a lovely sergeant, he ripped them all off.
Sharing memories of serving in the forces. Veterans met over breakfast to reminisce at Deangate Care Home in Barnsley.
There's no veteran clubs really for care homes in the area, or even really for the elderly population in this area. So I was like, right, OK, let's start one. So we started the veteran brunch. This is our first one today. And it's been so lovely because I think it'll help with their mental health, because I do notice sometimes that they don't like to talk about their experiences. They keep it kind of closed up, and obviously we all know what that can do to anybody. So hopefully going forward, this will help them open up a little bit, make new friends and just basically get out into the big wide world, but having a safe space to do so.
For the veterans here, it's vital that we all mark the upcoming 80th anniversary of VE Day.
My parents, grandparents all served in the First and Second World War, and it's bringing back what they did for us and the freedom we've got today. And we had the freedom of speech then, where we haven't now.
We hope it will not be forgotten. We hope it will be brought back to life what happened, what didn't happen, and what should have happened.
If we'd lost the war and Germany had taken over, what would we be speaking? We could be speaking German. But for those that laid down their life and the men that fought, they stopped that. And that's why all these gentlemen here are veterans who've done the same thing.
It means everything, doesn't it? Bletchley, that's where I was stationed, and I was in the Land Army.
It's your Christmas, you'll go enjoy yourself.
When farmers went to war, we replaced them and did all that work.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
The gathering wasn't just about recollecting the past, but also embracing the present. Former RAF serviceman Maurice Churchhouse celebrated his 95th birthday. And for him and the other veterans, the event was the icing on the cake. Anna Riley, GB News.
Oh, thank you, Anna. That was lovely. I love those kind of packages where we get to hear from veterans and hear from that generation.
Absolutely, but we want to hear from you as well, and lots of you have been getting in touch about JD Vance and his speech and whether he was speaking the truth. RJB's got in touch. He said nothing JD Vance said in Munich was untrue. Yep. Governments do need to increase defence spending, uncontrolled migration caused by the EU, and so on and so forth. Well said by JD. For making those politicians feel very uncomfortable.
Someone here, John, says he certainly could be president in a few years' time, working alongside Nigel Farage. Well, I mean, look, if the polls in Britain are anything to go by, there's certainly Farage is in with a shout, isn't he? And, hey, if Trump has a good 4 years and JD Vance carries on the way that he is at the moment, we don't even know who's going to be running for the Democrats, do we? So there's a chance that we could end up with something like that.
He's got a lot of energy, doesn't he, JD Vance? He's got a lot of energy. Clearly a very bright guy.
But you know what I think is? I mean, laughable's the wrong word because I'm about to say something very serious happened in Munich the other day. Obviously, the illegal migrant, the failed Afghan asylum seeker, rammed a car through a load of people. But you think JD Vance stands up there and points out that actually maybe Europe hasn't done the best job of looking after itself, and they'll go, oh, this is unacceptable. It's unacceptable. I mean, they're still cleaning the street up. You know, from what happened a couple of days ago. It's insane. These people are in such denial, aren't they, about the reality?
They're none so blind as those that cannot see. And I think a lot of our European leaders and bureaucrats have their eyes firmly shut because it's too uncomfortable to see the truth. Good morning.
There's a clip that we're going to play as well, by the way. So, look, hey, people...
Can I do one more view?
Oh, yeah.
One more view, if I can find it. Because Andy took issue with what Andy Preston said earlier. He says that the guest said these are not the views of the average Americans. He said, I married an American, and they are the views of the Americans, and so on. Many voters agree with him, then don't.
Yeah.
I mean, that is, you know... I mean, the thing is, Elon Musk, Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, huge figures in American politics, have been sharing the worst of the news coming out of Europe, been amplifying free speech issues, been amplifying issues to do with asylum and immigration and everything like that. And I'm sorry, but that's just social media for you. You can't hide from these things.
Look, people can disagree with them, absolutely fine. Free speech, by definition. But I do think they are on a mission, as they see it, to try to save the West. And just a quick one, June has been on. Thank you very much, June. Good morning, Emily and Patrick. What a pleasure to see you both this morning. Also, she says, good morning to all GB News followers. Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for all of your lovely comments in there as well. We do hope to get to as many of those as possible. We've got a lot coming your way. A couple of big stories. One of them, by the way, we're going to go to it in a little bit, though, is the government's come up with this ridiculous new video to try to deter Albanians from coming to Britain. But it is time for the Great British Giveaway, isn't it? Before we give you all the details, though, oh, yes, we want to say congratulations to Durya from London.
Oh, fantastic. She's become the biggest winner so far with an incredible £50,000 in cash. Well done. Here's the moment we called her with the good news.
Durya, I've got some really good news for you.
OK.
Are you sitting down?
Yes.
You've won £50,000 with the Great British Giveaway.
Really? Oh, my goodness. You're telling me the truth, right?
I'm completely telling you the truth.
Oh my goodness. I'm in the tube right now. You know, you have no idea how much I needed it. Oh my goodness.
Well, hopefully that's made your day.
It's made my year. It's made my year.
Oh, good for you,
what a result,
Durya.
eh? Imagine getting that phone call.
Oh, it'd be lovely, wouldn't it?
I do the Euro Millions every week, and the most I've ever won is a £5.
Yeah. I have wondered, you know, would you go back to work? If you won big on, like, the Euro Millions, you know, you see those people that win 100 million quid, would you go back to work? I mean, I will, because this is like a hobby more than anything. But yeah, I do wonder, you know, how quickly...
Have a few more days off.
Because if you find out they made a mistake, you know, you've called your boss, you can shove your job, I'm not coming back to work, and then they call you back and like, look, sorry, we made a mistake with the ticket, actually, you've not won.
If you're a teacher, just walk out of the class. Bye, guys. Fend for yourselves. But yes, what an amazing feeling it must be to win all that cash. And if you want to be one of two brand new winners, each with a new iPhone shopping voucher and £10,000 in tax-free cash, here are the details you need.
We're doubling your chances to win in our latest Great British Giveaway, with 2 fabulous prize bundles up for grabs. There's 2 lots of a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash. You'll also receive a brand new iPhone 16, along with £500 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite store. And the best news is, 2 lucky winners are going to win. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Right, OK, still to come. Have a little listen to this. Who could President Trump be talking about here?
He asked to come and see me, and I just accepted. It was his request, not mine, but...
Oh, it's great, this clip. It's great. Find out soon as we discover which world leader is desperate for a meeting with Trump. This is GB News Breakfast with Patrick and Emily.
If you want your news to be straight talking... This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Headliners. Tomorrow's papers tonight, every night from 11 p.m.
We've got the Daily Mail now with the latest in the court case over whether a man is a woman or a man. It's a tough question, and J.K. Rowling has given her opinion. I think I can guess what it is, Cressida.
Explosive twist in Australia's What is a Woman trans battle as Harry Potter author J.K. Rowling gets involved. So this is the court case Giggle versus Tickle. Tickle was a...
He's Mr. Men.
That's right. It's a Mr. Men trans battle.
Kind of is a Mr. Man.
It was a women's group, wasn't it? Tickle, Giggles... Oh, I get it wrong. Giggles for girls. And Roxy Tickle, who is a trans woman, wanted to join this group and wasn't allowed, was banned for being a biological male, and then sued and amazingly got $10,000 for this, which is already extraordinary to me.
Yeah.
But it's now doubling down and is going to file a cross-appeal seeking to upgrade the judgment.
Yeah.
So Roxy has come back for another bite of the cherry.
And I've had a look at this Roxanne Tickle, the trans woman.
Pretty?
No, not one of the pretty ones. Not a Blair White. Just looks like, to be honest, it looks like
you could be sued for 10,000.
looks like one of us.
Yeah.
To be honest, no, like I mean, I'll happily.
For yourself.
No, I think it's an absolute. It's a farce, and it's making a mockery of not just. It's not just making a mockery of women's right to have their own spaces. It's making a mockery of genuine trans people who actually put some effort in and look like a woman.
What do you mean a genuine trans
And also,
people?
if
We don't believe in that.
No, if your name was Roxanne, if you were going to transition, you wouldn't pick the name Roxanne Tickle.
What?
You'd choose Tess.
You Tess. That's a kind of name. No, the truth is that's one of the problems, is you get a choice of the name you're going to choose. And of course, you're going to choose like a hot Roxanne. That's a hot Roxanne. That's a great name. They're not going to choose.
You don't think
Louis.
Tess would work better with Tickle?
GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Wow, welcome back, everybody. You're watching and listening to Breakfast with Patrick and Emily.
Yes, and guess what? It is now time to go through all the latest sporting news with broadcaster Aidan McGee. Aidan, thank you very much indeed. Lots going on in the footballing world.
Yeah, but let me tell you, I've had a message from a viewer called Steve Adams. This will make you laugh. He said, sorry, mate, but this morning, he's talking to me here, but being with the lovely power couple, Patrick and Emily, you shall now be known as Aidan McGooseberry.
Oh, no, don't be daft.
Have a great weekend. Have a great weekend, all of you. Thanks, Steve. Thanks for getting in touch. He regularly gets in touch with comments about the show. So he's a very loyal viewer as well. But yeah, listen, I'll tell you who's less happy than Steve, and that'll be Chelsea last night. They went down to Brighton. They were knocked out of the FA Cup by Brighton just last week, 2-1. Last night it was far worse, 2-0 down at half-time. End up losing 3-0. Their place in the top four looks a little bit shaky now because they had that great start, didn't they? Everyone said that they're a comedy club. They spent £1.5 billion on players since Clear Lake Capital bought the club just after the intervention after the Ukraine war, and Abramovich had to sell up and etc. It's a hostile takeover, if you like. But yeah, they were 2-0 down at half-time yesterday. They don't have a striker that they can choose from. How can you spend £1.5 billion on players and not have a fit striker able to put the ball in the net at this time of the season? They've got 3 months left to go. There's teams breathing down their neck. Huge chance this weekend for clubs like Newcastle. Nottingham Forest are ahead of them as well. But Arsenal already going to be top 4. And
Forest are doing well, aren't they?
They are indeed, yeah. 3rd in the league. That's
amazing.
Brilliant. Well, they didn't do much last season. They stayed up. But if you can unearth a striker from somewhere, this guy's Chris Wood, who's scoring goals for them. I mean, he was basically a journeyman. And they just found a way for him to play, and he just knocks him in. So, as I say, brilliant day of action today. We've got 7 matches in total. But just to get back to Chelsea just for a moment, they spent 445 million of that 1.5 billion on forward players. They've won 2 games in the last 8, and I would say they're looking quite in trouble at the moment because they've got no momentum whatsoever, and they're out of the FA Cup as well. They're probably going to win the Europa League, the Europa Conference League. So that will get them back into Europe. But it's not the kind of trophy that a club of Chelsea stature should be going.
It's a minimum.
It's an absolute minimum. Yes, exactly.
Also, Aidan, we're a bit concerned, aren't we, about how the government are trying to regulate this industry that's doing quite well on its own.
Well, I would argue that there have been few greater exports from this country than the Premier League. And just football in general. I mean, we see there's an overseas market now for matches outside of the Premier League, for example. I mean, there were probably people watching QPR last night, heaven forbid, in the Championship against Derby County. But yeah, let's bring it down to something more specific. Yesterday, the Premier League have been trying to act tough with their clubs, just because they know there's a football regulator coming in, and they're worried now because nothing like how much teeth it's going to have has been determined yet. So let's act tough on our clubs now. They imposed these rules earlier in the year or last year actually, called APT rules. It's called the Associated Party Transactions. What that means is that, Emily, when you're subject to profit and sustainability rules, so it's about clubs governing their finances, it's in your interest to make your income higher than your outgoings because you want to be showing a profit. Most clubs don't show a profit actually, but you're allowed a certain amount of losses within a certain period of time. And so what the temptation is for clubs is that sometimes they get organisations, companies that are friendly to them, and maybe they can bloat the size of a transfer of a sponsorship deal. So for example, Company X comes in and they're a bit friendly with the club. They might be owned by somebody who's on the board or whatever. Oh yeah, look, there's a sponsorship deal there and it's worth 50 million. Oh, hang on a minute, on the open market normally that'd only be worth 10. So the sort of stuff does go on. Manchester City were accused of this, but they took the Premier League to court yesterday. The Premier League lost. Don't forget there's 115 charges hanging over City already. It's an ongoing dispute. But my question is that why are the Premier League looking to kind of... Well, we know why they're doing it because of the football regulator rules that I just described. But why are they trying to stifle their clubs from investing? When people come from overseas and they put £1 billion into a club, it creates employment. It was set up... This was set up to protect the really big clubs like Man United. Man United have actually fallen foul of these rules themselves. They only spent £25 million last window, even though the club are in desperate need of players, because they're worried about falling foul of these PSR rules. And so it's turning into something that's stopping external organisations or even countries or even even individuals investing in clubs when they really want to. There are rich owners out there who literally can't spend the money they want on their clubs because they're worried about these rules.
If the government managed to cripple football in this country, I mean, that would just be...
It was a white paper...
last straw, wouldn't it, really?
It was a white paper laid down by the Tory government.
Yeah, I know. I don't know what they're saying.
And there was agreement across the House that this should happen, and Gary Neville and everybody else said, oh, yeah, it's about time it happened. Of course
he did.
And you're just seeing clubs that are frightened to spend. They're frightened to spend.
Gary Neville winds me up, you know. All right, he's a decent right-back, he's a rubbish left-winger, isn't he? Anyway,
Very good.
Okay, well, tell you what, this is great. Now, listen up, everybody, because this clip is brilliant. So it's leaks audio recording from a CEO at JP Morgan. He's teed off on Gen Z staff, who he doesn't like. Listen to this.
And don't give me this work from home Friday works. I call a lot of people on Friday. There's not a goddamn person you get a hold of.
OK, we're going to get stuck into that very shortly. But first, if you're in search of some winter sun, here is the forecast for some of the top European holiday destinations.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Heavy showers and thunderstorms affecting the Adriatic and Ionian Sea coastlines, and this could also bring a risk of snow to Croatia. This will be through Saturday and also into Sunday, where low pressure largely dominates. But as we head further west across the Mediterranean, it should be largely settled, bar a little bit of cloud and perhaps the risk of the odd shower across Portugal and northwestern Spain. But Madeira and Tenerife largely settled, and it remains largely settled into next week, with temperatures widely in the mid-teens.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back, everybody. You're watching and listening to Breakfast with Patrick and Emily.
Yes, and joining us to go through what's making the news this morning are journalists Stephanie Tucci and Andy Jones. OK, well, we have a bit of a clip to kick things off, don't we? This is a government video that's supposedly intended to deter Albanians from coming to Britain.
It's quite remarkable, actually, this clip. We'll go to it in a second. Yeah, there we go. So, look, this is, by the way, I will say in Albanian, which is why we're not changing. But what the whole point of this is, Andy, is to try to give an impression to Albanians of how bigoted and horrible Britain is, which is why you shouldn't bother.
It's an anti-advert. It's an anti-advert about Britain by the British government to stop people coming, and it's Albanians who are based in Britain saying, "Look, lads, look, lasses, don't bother coming. There's fly tipping, broken furniture. All they eat is fried food, whatever they're talking about. All of this sort of stuff." And actually, in a way, Britain advertising that we're spending, advertising saying all the bad things about it. But if it stops people coming, and migrants cost the NHS last year 1.4 billion. We all know about the cost of hotels. And social media does play a part. When I reported from Calais migrant camp several times a few years ago, one of the biggest drivers with people coming to Britain was that we project a view on social media about how perfect our lives are. And obviously you're glorious and glamorous, particularly you three, Instagram, having a great life. It does sometimes cut through. And whilst any advert saying Britain is done by the British government is laughable, but it shows how desperate we are to stop migration.
I mean, Stephanie, it's been depressing,
It's a waste of money. We couldn't keep our pensioners warm, so we've spent millions of money to try to deter Albanian immigrants coming over, where if they want to come to this country, they're going to want to come to this country. They should have spent that money actually enforcing that people can't get through the borders illegally. Like, this is nothing. Social media, people will see that and be like, all right, mate, I'm still going to come over.
I don't particularly want us to be projecting an image of Britain on the international stage. OK, it's only to Albanians at the moment, but other people will see it. But I don't really want everyone to think Britain is a dump.
This advert is also waving a white flag to say that we can't deport people.
100%.
We're now trying to stop people coming, which in some ways is a sensible idea.
That's a good
but
point.
we're saying these are people from Albania. There's no war going on in Albania. There is no reason why millions of migrants from Albania should be arriving in this way. We are basically, and we see this again, and we'll do this a newspaper story later on about the Zimbabwean paedophile we can't deport. And we do a story almost daily on this show about this kind of thing. It is waving a white flag to say we can't do anything about it.
That's right.
Yes, social media will get through, and it's a way of
they are
stopping people.
profiting from this country. So beyond this social media, the Albanians who are already in this country, they've set up businesses, they've set up homes. So it's word of mouth. That's already what's strong right now. So this video, I really do not think will cut through with a message at all, because they've established themselves here and they're being quite successful.
There's the other videos you mentioned about the power of social media and all of this stuff. Well, there's the other videos of Albanian criminals driving around in Bugattis and Lamborghinis.
This is what I'm saying.
It's obviously what they're all watching.
Albanian burglar that we can't deport, you know, doing donuts in his Range Rover, celebrating it. The other big thing that's a driver for a lot of Albanians, and there are obviously a lot of peaceable, tax-paying Albanians that are here, but look, the biggest driver for a lot of Albanian migrants is our black market economy. People don't come here for our liberal values. They come here for our liberal economy. You can arrive in Dover and pretty much have a job in a factory, a takeaway, some sort of jobs somewhere, do it with black market money without paying any taxes, without paying anything else. And even if the money is not good, because you're not paying for anything else, you're being housed by the taxpayer, you can have a lot of cash in hand.
And this is where that money should have gone on.
Well, I agree. Shall we do something a little bit lighter?
Yeah,
which is this British... well, because we're going to be talking about the Zimbabwean paedophile later on. So
why don't we save that? Park that for now.
Let's talk about Bridget Jones for now. Stephanie, this is very much your wheelhouse.
This is my arena.
Emily and I went to see it last night.
Oh, what did you think?
I think, by and large, it was good, although we did
May I just say it was very sweet of you to book Bridget Jones on Valentine's Day, because it's not the most manly of films.
No, it's not.
Yes.
I do know quite a few men who did take their wives or misses to go see Bridget Jones, so they've read the room correctly. But the Spectator's having a bit of a go at Bridget Jones and saying that she is no longer a feminist icon. She's a woman in her 50s trying to get a toy boy who's 29-year-old. She's still fixated by her looks and how she's obsessive with calorie counting. And they're just saying she's no longer a feminist icon. But I think, actually, she works in a post-feminist world. And I think this is why we love Bridget Jones and we can relate to her, because she is a modern woman who was flawed. She's not perfect. And if she was a right-on, headstrong feminist, I think cinema viewers would be switched off.
So can I ask, what do they mean by that, right? Do they want her to have really let herself go?
Yeah.
To not care about what she looks like, to not be looking for any kind of romance.
To be fair, she hadn't brushed her hair throughout the entire show, so I don't think she was trying to be a little, supermodel.
Is that what it means? Oh, she's not feminist enough. She's decided to try and keep herself in check.
I thought feminism was about personal choice, and if you want to be 50s and chasing a toy boy, that is a feminist choice. If you want to be perfect and have all of the right lanyards and all of the right opinions and everything else, then you can also do that. And there is this sort of thing about, and we're seeing these sort of shows where, you know, the new Beauty and the new Snow White, I think, getting a lot of criticism, where people don't want this perfect projection of what a woman should be in the modern age and what a man should be in the modern age.
I think the problem with Bridget Jones, there's always the battle between the books and the movies, where the movies are obviously a more entertainment value, more jazzed up, more glamorous, where the books are more hard-hitting.
Yeah. But you know what? I think it was quite... I think, looking back at the Bridget Jones one, this was a natural progression for her.
Same here, and I think most women can relate to that. You've reached your 50s, you may have lost a partner, you're going to go onto the dating apps.
Absolutely. Well, look, guys, we're going to do this again in the next hour, and we also had an incident at the cinema last night, so I'll reveal all very shortly.
Despite
the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Over the weekend, we can expect outbreaks of rain, some hill snow, also some ice at times, but it is going to gradually turn milder from the southwest. Here, though, is where we're likely to see quite a cloudy and wet start across the southwest parts of Wales, central and northeastern parts of England. Could see some snow across northeastern parts too, which also brings a risk of ice. The best of the brightness likely to the far northwest of Scotland, but it will also eventually brighten up across parts of Devon and Cornwall too. For many, it is going to be a chillier day, but starting to turn slightly milder across parts of the southwest, particularly by the afternoon. So to end the day on Saturday then, plenty of clear skies across the southwest, so likely seeing quite a nice sunset, but that's where it's going to turn chilly overnight, likely to see some patchy frost. Elsewhere, there's plenty of cloud around, so quite a murky evening on offer, low clouds, some outbreaks of rain and drizzle, and still a risk we could start to see some snow, particularly around North Sea coasts, mainly across high ground, though we could see some flurries to lower levels too. Plenty of clear skies to the northwest of Scotland. Here, once again, we're likely to see some patchy frost. Then overnight we see this area of cloud and rain slowly shift its way northeastwards. As it does tend to fizzle out a little bit, but still going to leave plenty of cloud. Still a chance we could see some drizzly outbreaks and still a risk of snow to higher ground, particularly in the northeast. But largely dry and clear across the southwest and across the northwest of Scotland. But here it is going to be chilly with that risk of frost by the time we reach the morning. As this area of cloud and rain continues to push northeastwards, there's also a chance we could see some freezing rain along this feature. So once again, a chance we could see some ice. But for many across Wales, southern parts of England, a drier day on offer compared to Saturday, though a return of the cloud and rain from the very far west, which will affect Northern Ireland later. And for most, another chilly day on offer, but still mildest across the southwest. Bye-bye.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
We're giving you not one, but 2 chances to win this month, with 2 prize bundles that include an incredible £10,000 in tax-free cash. But that's not all. You'll also get a brand new iPhone 16 and a £500 shopping voucher to spend at your favourite store. So why not be extra lucky this month? For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
I'm here in M. Manzi's, which is now the oldest surviving pie and eel shop in London. It's been open since 1892, and as you said in the intro there, it's really sort of a dying breed. One of the sister sites of this shop, the distant relative, owned one of their own other shops in Deptford, and that closed on Saturday for the very last time. They've been open for over 100 years. So you clearly see that there's a declining, not necessarily a declining interest, that's the wrong way of putting it, but it's nowhere near as prevalent as it used to be. This was a staple of the East End, and it's now gone from about 300 shops in the Victorian times to under 40 now, and it's declining further and further. Now, also, a couple of months ago, I was in Basildon talking about a similar story with Richard Holden, trying to create a protected status for pie and mash to prevent sort of copycats from stealing the recipe and making it less authentic. So that is ongoing. There's clearly interest in it, and tourists enjoy coming in here. Hopefully, I'll get one of my own pies shortly and have another taste. But it would be a shame to see this go. It's not just about the pie and the taste and the flavour, which is fantastic. It's also about history and community. A lot of people come in here as regulars, so we're just shining a light on a crucial part of London's historic economy. It's a bit of good fun, and it certainly tastes very good as well. Demographics have changed, yeah, and actually a lot of the ownership, the people who would run these shops traditionally over the last few decades, are moving out towards the west, Wales. They're moving towards Kent. They're moving towards Sussex. So there are demographic changes, and no doubt that is influencing it as well. And as I say, it's important to do stories like this just to remind people of London's history and why it's important to support these local businesses.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Well, good morning, everybody. Loads to come on this breakfast show, including some electric stuff from JD Vance.
Yes, Europe's facing a threat from within. That's what the US Vice President said at the Munich Security Conference, and it derailed things. Could this reshape the West?
I've heard a lot about what you need to defend yourselves from, and of course that's important. But what has seemed a little bit less clear to me, and certainly I think to many of the citizens of Europe, is what exactly it is that you're defending yourselves for.
Oh, well, quite. And Boris Johnson's been speaking out. He's urged Trump not to leave Ukraine behind.
And so what Trump is trying to say to the Europeans, to us Brits, to everyone, is man up and step up.
Yes, Boris Johnson's optimism over the US's plans is not shared by many here. JD Vance's comments yesterday about free speech and the number of migrants coming into Europe has gone down like a lead balloon.
And elsewhere, Donald Trump reveals Sir Keir Starmer has come to him to seek out a meeting. Is our leader, the Labour leader, desperate to salvage that special relationship?
He asked to come and see me, and I just accepted. It was his request, not mine, but...
Yeah, that full clip is great. We'll bring that to you. But more immigration lunacy. Reports of a Zimbabwean paedophile now who we've allowed to stay in the UK because of fears that he might face hostility if he returns home. Good. He should, shouldn't he?
Anyone care? And tough times in England, apparently. That's the message to Albanian migrants in a new video campaign urging them to rethink the move to Britain by portraying our country in a poor light.
Ridiculous. Talking of ridiculous, is Meghan the Duchess of Hypocrisy? After joining Prince Harry at the Invictus Games, lecturing the world on the environment, she finds the time to fly home on a gas-guzzling private jet.
Yes, we'll have that debate. And in other news, JP Morgan CEO, he's unleashed an attack on Gen Z staff who tend to work from home. This is in a new leaked audio. Let's have a listen.
And don't give me this work from home Friday works. I call a lot of people Friday. There's not a goddamn person to get a hold of.
It was a Valentine's Day massacre for Chelsea last night at the Amex as they crashed to a heavy defeat in the Premier League at Brighton. And Gary Neville says abuse of football pundits is on the rise. Join me later.
Good morning. A cloudy and cold start for many of us, including a risk of snow and ice in the northeast, but it should turn brighter later. To find out where, stay tuned and I'll have all the details.
Well, it's now just gone 7 o'clock. Thank you very much for joining us on GB News Breakfast. I'm Patrick Christys.
And I'm Emily Carver, and this is GB News Breakfast.
I hope you all had a lovely Valentine's Day, everybody. We went out for a little bit of lunch, didn't we? And then we went to watch Bridget Jones as well, so...
it was a nice day, actually, yesterday, in the capital. The sun was shining.
It was.
Birds singing.
But the day started with every woman's dream, OK? No, not waking up next to me. It was waking up to discover that we are rock bottom of the country's power couple list.
Yes, but
we're number 40. There's only 40, so we're number 40.
We could say top 40.
We're technically in the top 40, but we are very much at the bottom.
I would say that given the size of the Westminster bubble, that list of couples could stretch to thousands. So consider yourself lucky that you're 40, you're number 40, because there's only the only way's up from that point.
Well, there you go. Well,
my brother just said now we're part of the establishment.
Yes.
Yeah. And that we belong with the lovies now.
Yes.
So there's our reputation in shatters.
Wow.
Tatters.
Yeah. Well, anyway, look, I suppose the only way is up. Maybe if we have a good year, we might hit 37 next year.
And I'm a gooseberry, by the way.
You are. It's the third wheel at the moment. But see what the Royals have been sharing their loved up snaps, haven't they? Should we have a look at that?
Let's have a look at Meghan and Harry.
It's Harry and Meghan. There we are.
Big smidge.
Yeah. OK. We're going to talk about them in a little bit because they've been hypocrites for private jet gate number 587 or whatever it is.
But the thing is, it's because Prince Harry, one of his big initiatives was sustainable travel. Isn't it called something like Travel Sustainably or something? Travel
sounds pithy.
Like that.
You know what? Him and Rory Stewart should just do a podcast together. And disappear off onto a desert island somewhere. I mean, grief. But there's also a more traditional snap with the Kate and Wills. There we are, a little kiss on the cheek, a bit more demure.
Demure.
Yes. Mindful, yes.
It's a gorgeous photo. To be honest, both of them are pretty inoffensive.
Yes.
Both of them are inoffensive kisses. I mean, what do you make of the whole sort of showing your love online? Do you think it's not very nice for people who are on their own?
I do feel for people that are on their own, but then at the same time, I do think we can't all go off the lowest common denominator, can we? It's nice if most people are happy, maybe we should focus on the happiness. But I think we're going to show you the way that now this is new, this is different, but this is how the White House decided to mark Valentine's Day. You know, they normally do things. Well, I don't imagine the White House normally does. I'm going to read it out. Roses are red. Violets are blue, come here illegally and we'll deport you.
Oh, hang on, I thought that was the poem I put in your card.
You're a generation too late for that, I'm afraid. My grandparents did come here legally, as far as I'm aware. But yeah, so what that was... I just thought it was brilliant. Can we just play... Sorry, can we just bring that back up? I just think it's absolutely hilarious.
Is this from a legitimate White House Twitter
the White
account,
House.
is it?
Roses are red, violets are blue, come here illegally, we'll deport you. Oh, there we go.
Well,
Picture of
I can't imagine our government putting out that, can you?
Well, you're an old-school romantic, aren't you?
Yeah, big time, yeah.
Yeah. You must have been all about, you know, was there a bed of roses for you, wasn't there?
No, it's all quite expensive. I tend to do it a few days before. No. Just because, on the day you get rinsed, don't you?
Flowers?
Yeah, you do, yeah. How much is a dozen red roses on?
35 quid at M&S.
I went to Coventry to watch QPR play.
Oh, well, there you go. Thanks for going to M&S rather than a florist.
Well, what's wrong with
better than a petrol station?
Well, I was going to say, petrol stations do some good deals, actually.
They were absolutely beautiful flowers.
OK, thank you very much. Right, OK, to the top story. Go on, take it away.
To the top story. Yes, the threat from within. The Vice President, J.D. Vance, he launched a scathing attack on European leaders at the Munich Security Conference.
So he accused governments and leaders of basically abandoning Western European values and ignoring voters' concerns.
The threat that I worry the most about vis-a-vis Europe is not Russia, it's not China, it's not any other external actor. And what I worry about is the threat from within, the retreat of Europe from some of its most fundamental values, values shared with the United States of America. In Britain and across Europe, free speech, I fear, is in retreat. An offer.
Yes, and J.D. Vance, he chose to, put the spotlight on the United Kingdom, and not in a good way. All our free speech laws, saying Brexit as well, was proof of voters wanting tighter borders, and they've been ignored.
Well, his speech, unsurprisingly, has caused a bit of a backlash from Europe's elite. Former Brexit coordinator Guy Verhofstadt dismissed him as having no legitimacy. And let's just all think about how ridiculous that statement is from Guy Verhofstadt. And then here's another one as well. They're so thick, this lot. They just prove his point for him. German Defence Minister has slammed his remarks, right, about free speech as unacceptable. Totally unacceptable. OK? Oh, what? So, sorry, we guys talk about free speech. We can't let him talk about free speech, can we? Mad. Anyway, I think someone with a bit more gravitas than me is about to do some free speaking now, and it's our political correspondent from Munich, Catherine Forster. Catherine, thank you very much. What's going on where you are then? Big day.
Yes, good morning. Well, the repercussions from that speech by J.D. Vance, the new US Vice President, have been considerable here. Sure, the German Defence Minister branding those comments unacceptable. It got a very, very muted reception in the hall because what European leaders wanted to hear from the Vice President was reassurances on support for Ukraine and for Europe defence going forward. Now, he only said a very small amount about that. He said that Ukraine would get a reasonable settlement. He did say that Europe needed to step up in terms of defending itself. We know, don't we, that many European countries have simply not spent anything like enough on defence for, well, decades, because they've known that in the event of a crisis, the US will be there to help keep them safe. It seems clear that those days are fundamentally gone, but most of the speech was spent in basically taking to task European leaders on a couple of things: free speech and migration. On free speech, it seemed to be that the United Kingdom and Scotland in particular were singled out as the absolute worst offenders. And Donald Trump, speaking later about the speech, said that it was brilliant and said that Europe was losing their wonderful right of free speech. Also on migration, we know, don't we, that since 2016, particularly, millions of migrants have come into Europe, and J.D. Vance drew a direct link between that and these terrible attacks that we keep seeing. I was at the site yesterday morning of where the car rammed into trade union workers in the centre of Munich, just a few minutes from where we're standing now. A real sense of shock, but it was a failed Afghan asylum seeker that did this, and this comes just a couple of months after an attack in which people died and hundreds were injured. Elsewhere in Germany, these things are happening over and over again. And J.D. Vance was saying, look, you have to listen to what your people are telling you. And you might not necessarily like what they are saying, but if you don't act on these things, you can expect them to take their votes elsewhere. Of course, in Germany particularly, there's going to be an election in 10 days' time. The AfD, the hard right alternative for Deutschland, will be absolutely lapping up what J.D. Vance has said. But I think there'll be plenty of voters across Europe thinking that he had a point.
OK, well, Catherine Forster, thank you very much indeed for being there in Munich for us. Our political correspondent, she'll be keeping us up to date throughout the morning. You know, European leaders may not like to hear it from J.D. Vance, but they're clearly very aware of the problems. I mean, Olaf Scholz, after this horrific attack in Munich, what did he come out and say? We're going to secure the borders. We're going to deport Afghans who fail their asylum claims. We're going to get tough on borders. How many European countries are doing the same?
No, he's spot on. And again,
you know,
I'm just going to say this now, seriously. Has Europe got better or worse in the last 10, 15 years, realistically? And who's been in charge of it? This kind of fluffy, lovey, liberal elite. Well, I'm sorry, they might not like to hear it, but all of their voters are saying this. All their votes saying. Anyway, very pleased now to be joined by political commentator Piers Pottinger. Piers, good morning. How are you?
Morning, Patrick. Morning. Well, thank you. Yes.
What did you make of what J.D. Vance had to say there? Should we focus in on the idea that he said that basically we have got a threat from Russia and China, but there is a threat from within.
Yeah.
And we're seeing the likes of the Munich attacker. I'm also thinking, actually, to be honest with you, we're seeing the likes of plenty of people here in this country who wish us harm as well. You know, even things like the grooming gang scandal, for example, is a threat from within.
Yes, it is. And, I mean, the first thing I'd say is it's a long time since we've seen a vice president of the United States have such worldwide impact. And, of course, he could well be the next president. And the way things are going, I mean, it's extraordinary. It is a breath of fresh air. Whatever your views about Trump's administration are, he has actually hit the ground running and is delivering what he said he would do. And Vance has really shaken up the collective complacency of the awful bureaucracy in the EU. They were completely taken aghast by the whole thing. And most of what he said was, I thought, perfectly sensible. The other thing is everyone's rushing to prejudge what's going to happen with Putin and Zelensky in terms of an agreement. We don't know what that is, all the details yet, so please, I think people who try and prejudge it, mostly the left, are making a mistake in prejudging it. We haven't seen, and at least he's actually sorting it out. I mean, these bureaucrats have been sitting around for years watching this, doing nothing. Trump said that when he got elected, he'd sort it out, and that's what he's doing.
Yeah, I think you're right on that one. People jump into conclusions before they actually know the detail of these discussions.
Absolutely.
These negotiations that will hopefully take place. You use the word complacency.
Yes.
I think that's absolutely spot on. I think that's how people feel throughout Europe. Our leaders have just been complacent. They've had their heads in the sand. But someone like Guy Verhofstadt, I mean, would he ever admit that perhaps mass immigration or perhaps the ideology of multiculturalism has been a failure? Or would that just make him... Would that just be an admittance? No, he can't, can he?
The European liberal status quo has too much vested interests in what the situation is now, this sort of wishy-washy liberal elite, completely controlled by this magical term international law. Now, international law is what is actually doing the most damage to this country. And Keir Starmer, who I think it was Richard Littlejohn described brilliantly as a complete and utter lawyer, the only thing he does is he pursues international law because that's what he's obsessed with. Most of his career was that. And he's come into he's become the Prime Minister of the UK, still focused on only one thing, international law. And everything he's doing, he talks about that, oh, we can't do that because of the law. Well, actually, as Trump has proven, international law doesn't matter when it comes to your own laws and your own sovereignty. And it's about time this country and in Europe, I mean, it's happening. Starmer doesn't seem to understand this. In Europe, it's going the way of the right, not the far right. Everyone always calls anything that is right far right now. It's just right. It's not wishy-washy, lefty, liberal stuff that people are completely fed up with.
Actual values and sticking up for.
Absolutely. Real principles, real values, and also concern about the people of the countries they represent.
It's as if people haven't, read their history books. You have to actually defend civilisations if you want them to last. Anyway, Piers, we'll speak again very soon. Thank you very much.
What I'm looking forward to talking to you about next, by the way, is because the J.D. Vance thing about Britain and all of this stuff, the perception of us around the world now, where we are, and also as well the fact that Keir Starmer clearly got on the phone to Trump shortly after J.D. Vance's speech and begged him for a meal. So
on the back foot.
On the back foot. We'll come back to that. But well done, mate. Right. Well, here at GB News, we'd love to hear what you think. And every day, we run our poll of the day, don't we? What is it today?
Is J.D. Vance right to say free speech is in retreat in Britain? Well, there you go. There's a question.
I think I might know how people might vote for that one. But yes, do take the time to have a little vote on that. Anyway, the final result is going to be announced later on in Nana Aqua's show.
Oh, fantastic stuff. Well, for all of our latest polls, news and how to vote, just go to gbnews.com/poll.
So, shall we have a look at some of the other stories filtering their way into our newsroom this morning? The Pope is ill. Yes, Pope Francis remains in hospital for bronchitis treatment. He's in a stable condition, though. Slight fever, apparently. He's 88 years old. He was admitted after struggling with breathing issues, but he's continued to try to soldier on. There's going to be public engagement suspended until Friday, and maybe he'll be back in action on Monday, but we'll see.
We will see. And in other news, the Attorney-General has rejected calls to review the 52-year sentence of Southport murderer Axel Ridder-Cabana, ruling there is no legal basis to increase it. Yes, the 18-year-old was jailed in January for murdering 3 young girls, attempting to kill 10 more. The government says the case marks a line in the sand as ministers outline next steps to prevent similar tragedies.
Or large fire has hit the celebrity favourite of Chiltern Firehouse on Valentine's Day, forcing about 100 people to be evacuated. The blaze rapidly spread to the roof. 20 fire engines were deployed to the scene. So it's a luxury hotel. It's a bar and restaurant as well. It's known for hosting A-listers. And it's going to need a major refurbishment. That's just days before it was due to host the Netflix BAFTA party. The cause of the fire is unknown.
OK, well, I think it's time for your weather with Honor Krizik.
A chilly start will give way to a lovely, warm afternoon. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Over the weekend, we can expect outbreaks of rain, some hill snow, also some ice at times, but it is going to gradually turn milder from the southwest. Here, though, is where we're likely to see quite a cloudy and wet start across the southwest parts of Wales, central and northeastern parts of England. Could see some snow across northeastern parts too, which also brings a risk of ice. The best of the brightness likely to the far northwest of Scotland, but it will also eventually brighten up across parts of Devon and Cornwall too. For many, it is going to be a chillier day, but starting to turn slightly milder across parts of the southwest, particularly by the afternoon. So to end the day on Saturday then, plenty of clear skies across the southwest, so likely seeing quite a nice sunset, but that's where it's going to turn chilly overnight, likely to see some patchy frost. Elsewhere, there's plenty of cloud around, so quite a murky evening on offer, low clouds, some outbreaks of rain and drizzle, and still a risk we could start to see some snow, particularly around North Sea coasts, mainly across high ground, though we could see some flurries to lower levels too. Plenty of clear skies to the northwest of Scotland. Here, once again, we're likely to see some patchy frost. Then overnight we see this area of cloud and rain slowly shift its way northeastwards. As it does tend to fizzle out a little bit, but still going to leave plenty of cloud. Still a chance we could see some drizzly outbreaks and still a risk of snow to higher ground, particularly in the northeast. But largely dry and clear across the southwest and across the northwest of Scotland. But here it is going to be chilly with that risk of frost by the time we reach the morning. As this area of cloud and rain continues to push northeastwards, there's also a chance we could see some freezing rain along this feature. So once again, a chance we could see some ice. But for many across Wales, southern parts of England, a drier day on offer compared to Saturday, though a return of the cloud and rain from the very far west, which will affect Northern Ireland later. And for most, another chilly day on offer, but still mildest across the southwest. Bye-bye.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Yes, well, I've got a little announcement to make about the future of my show. That sounds odd.
Very dramatic.
Do I? Anyway, every Friday night from the 21st of February, we will be hosting a live studio audience show. So this is Patrick Christie's Tonight. It's 9 to 11 p.m. I do it Monday to Friday, most weeks. But on Friday, it's going to be an audience show. Bigger news, bigger debates, bigger opinions. Look, I really want you to be a part of it. So you can go to gbnews.com/tickets. You can book your seat, be part of the show. And just as a little heads up, GB News members do get first dibs. So there you go.
Anyway. See, yes. GB members get first dibs. That'll be fun. That'll be fun, actually. It's always a different vibe in the studio.
Love it.
You know?
I love it.
You get to see everything close up and personal.
It's got a
beads
zip.
of sweat on your brow.
Well, yeah, hopefully. But no, I love it when there's an audience. You know, it zips along and it's all got a different energy to it. So it's a new Friday night thing and we're going to be doing. So, yeah, if you can, be a part of it. And we're going to do it every Friday. So, yeah, come on. There we go. But talking of things we're just giving away for free, you can now be one of 2 winners for our Great British giveaway. New iPhone, shopping vouchers, 10 grand in tax-free cash. Here's how you can enter.
We're doubling your chances to win in our latest Great British giveaway with 2 fabulous prize bundles up for grabs. There's 2 lots of a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash. You'll also receive a brand new iPhone 16 along with £500 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite store. And the best news is 2 lucky winners are going to win. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, there we go. 2 things for the to-do list. Sign up for Patrick's in-studio audience on a Friday night, and also the Great British giveaway.
Well, yeah, good luck to everyone. We're giving away some good prizes at the moment anyway, but still to come. Yeah, J.D. Vance, the Vice President of the United States, has basically given a speech saying he thinks that free speech in Britain is dead. Shall we have a listen?
And what I worry about is the threat from within. the retreat of Europe from some of its most fundamental values, values shared with the United States of America. In Britain and across Europe, free speech, I fear, is in retreat.
Well, do you agree at home? We're going to be debating that next. Two very different views. This is GB News Breakfast with Patrick and me, Emily.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
All right, welcome back, everybody. You are watching and listening to Breakfast with Patrick and Emily.
You are indeed. Now, JD Vance, he's accused European leaders of abandoning their values and ignoring migration concerns.
The threat that I worry the most about vis-a-vis Europe is not Russia, it's not China, it's not any other external actor. And what I worry about is the threat from within, the retreat of Europe from some of its most fundamental values, values shared with the United States of America. In Britain and across Europe, free speech, I fear, is in retreat. An offer.
So, the Vice President of the US has said that he's most concerned about the UK, so us right here, giving the example of the arrest of an anti-abortion activist, if that's right to call him, who was convicted of entering a no-go buffer zone. He's silently praying in his own head, basically, outside an abortion clinic, was arrested. So, is Vance right? Is free speech in jeopardy in the UK?
OK, well, we're joined now by the former Labour advisor, Matthew Torbett, and political commentator, Kane Blackwell. Kane, you're going to be arguing that, yes, it is, so go. Why?
Indeed. Well, I mean, I completely agree with Vance, and I just loved the way he got up on stage in front of the entirety of the European political class and just roasted them for everything that they've done for the last however many years. But I mean, governments of all colours in this country and across Europe have pontificated about free speech, and, you know, they've introduced legislation that has unintentionally and intentionally curbed and reduced freedom of speech in this country and across the globe. And I think people have had enough. And thank God for the American people, the 77 million Americans who voted for Trump and Vance in the last election, because they've given us freedom fighters on the world stage again. We've needed it for so long. And unfortunately, we've had mild-mannered, weak people at the top of government and actually not had those real challenging conversations.
Matthew, I'll bring you in. So a couple of points here. Do you think he's just wrong, basically, about free speech in Britain? But secondly, I suppose it is a bit embarrassing for Keir Starmer to have that being dished out on the world stage like that.
I think Keir Starmer, I think more David Lammy having the photo shoot with him yesterday. He'd obviously not preempted he was going to say that. And then, you know, Keir's had a 2-minute phone call with Trump, and that's what Number 10 were pushing out. I think you always want to keep your allies close. Whether he's right on this, I'm not sure. I think we do have freedom of speech in this country. We have a whole breadth of media from left to right. We have programmes like this that bring different voices together. And I suppose it comes down to individual choices. I'd ask Kane, what element of freedom do you feel is under attack for you personally? What freedoms do you not have anymore that you once did?
Well, I don't think it's necessary. What I would say is particularly around, you know, on social media and a sort of a culture of sort of actually not allowing people to have the views, particularly on the right, for many, many years. People have been bashed on particularly things like COVID as well. You know, Bev Turner, who's one of our colleagues here, you know, for years and years and years, she's been hounded because she actually held views that were proven right in the end. You know, particularly around COVID and stuff like that, people's views were completely and utterly, you know, not allowed just because they had a different opinion.
That's an interesting point, sorry, Emily, because you've just said people have been hounded, but they still have the freedom to say those things. And I'd actually flip that back at you with regards to social media. I think social media, for all its ills and goods, democratises freedom of speech, and actually we don't see people being jailed or hauled off.
People have been jailed literally in last summer.
Can you name me? No, that's not true. But there is a difference between freedom of speech and incitement and harassment, and you will know that because it's the very same ECHR people ask us to leave. It's committed in law within the ECHR, in the Human Rights Act, that people want to scrap the element of freedom of speech you cannot be jailed for. So that's not true. That's political
One thing I will just say on this is there was the Free Speech Union defended a man who was a former Royal Marine who did a Facebook video in the wake of the Southport attack where he brought together a huge amount of different cases. They actually did try to prosecute him for that. He was found not guilty. It raised the question about whether or not a lot of people who are currently behind bars, if they'd have pled not guilty, might have got off. But, you know, look, that's a choice for them ultimately, isn't it? But, yeah.
May I just raise another point here? Because, Matthew, are we forgetting the fact that we have things like non-crime hate incidents, that are usually based on speech? Let's be real, it's usually about speech. We have a nebulous concept of hate speech, which a lot of people can't actually point to exactly what that means. You also had a Scottish First Minister who was trying to criminalise what you say around your dining room table. Yes, you do have people being investigated by the police over tweets. Do you genuinely believe that we don't have a freedom of speech problem?
No, what I would say is non-crime hate incidents are a bit silly. I've always said that. I think it's always tricky when you're trying to police offence, and this is the problem where the law is quite grey, because you're talking about what is offensive, and offence and what society finds and deems offensive moves on over 10, 20 years. However, these people aren't being prosecuted. So therefore, it might be a crackdown, it's people using these things...
Just being investigated, Kane, though, is chilling, surely.
Well, exactly. I mean, look at our friend Alison Pearson, what she had to go through, a fantastic journalist, for tweets that she made that, you know, Essex police are investigating them, come round to her house, knocking on her door. I mean, that's bad enough. In this country, when we're meant to value free speech, you know, to the nth degree, and we have politicians pontificating about this for years and years and years, and then we have incidents like this. It's absolutely shocking.
We've also had Christian preachers be spoken to by the police.
That was the example that
buffer zones outside abortion clinics. I mean, should you really be criminalised?
One thing I will say about the free speech thing is I think Matthew raises a good point, which is we do have shows like this, we do have channels like this, and that's That's great. We have also come under a fair amount of flack here, just for wanting
Just for existing.
to have conversations. Yeah, well, yeah. Sometimes we invite it on, to be fair, but you know, we do. There have been consequences to just trying to have conversations a bit less. Both of you, can I just say a massive thank you? I was a bit short and sweet this morning, but thank you very much to have both of you on, both of your views on. Always a pleasure. So take care. Right, we've got a lot more coming your way. So we've been. Well, Catherine Forster's been interviewing Boris Johnson.
She has indeed. Yes, she found him in Munich, and he's been making his feelings known as Trump looks to make peace with Putin.
And so what Trump is trying to say to the Europeans, to us Brits, to everyone, is man up and step up.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
Well, a new poll commissioned by Channel 4 shows that more than half of Gen Z believe that Britain should be ruled by a dictator. Seriously, they actually said that. Well, 1 in 3 would want an army. What's the army in charge? 1 in 3 want martial law.
There's something on the idea of some form of strong leadership. They have looked at British politics. They have looked at the politics in which they grow up in. And they see failures at the democratic level. They see a weak, a soft, a centre that doesn't do anything, makes promises and fails to deliver them. They see nothing actually happening. And they also see a future where they have no democratic engagement because they're never going to have a house. They're never going to have a family. Why would they? Why would they be able to? So the idea of having somebody strong to come through and blow away the cobwebs of our current system, I can see that being attractive. When I grew up, I was talking to not that old men and women who had been through the war, who knew what dictatorship was. Up until the 70s, we were in the Cold War. People knew what dictatorship was. They knew people being locked up, being sent to Siberia. They knew what this meant. And I don't think anybody under the age of 34 actually has a clue. It's all the other side of the world. It's in North Korea, it's in China. It's not here, and it's not part of their lived experience. And that's a big change.
And I wonder, actually, Nigel, if a lot of these people think, I don't know, like Donald Trump's a dictator. He got elected with a huge mandate. Do they understand what dictators is? Or, actually, are young people just so listless? They're so feeble-minded, they need to be told what to do and how to live.
I certainly think that Gwen's right about there's a disillusionment with democracy and the results of it. The idea that a dictatorship is the answer to it or having the military rule over us is obvious nonsense.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is the nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Well, welcome back. You are watching and listening to Breakfast with Patrick and Emily. We've got Aidan McGee in the studio, haven't we? Do a little bit of sport. Aidan, what's going on?
Well, I want to talk about Manchester City, first of all, because they're involved in a courtroom battle over the recent days with the Premier League about associated party transactions. What that means, Patrick, is that there are these rules now about profit and sustainability. You have to show that you're keeping your house in good order financially, and this applies to all clubs. Manchester City were accused originally of breaching those rules by inflating the value of their transfer of their sponsorship rules, which means that their profit looks a little bit bigger than it actually was in real life. They weren't really representative of true market value. Nonetheless, I can't, long story short, because we're pushed for time, they went to court yesterday. The Premier League lost their case. This is nothing to do with the 115 charges that are hanging over Manchester City right now, we should say. But nonetheless, the Premier League have a £20 million legal bill. Manchester City represented by Lord Panic.
I think
yes,
it's the one who represents Boris Johnson during his...
Absolutely, they're getting the high rollers on. They're getting the high rollers on board here, and it's a real. The Premier League just seem to be trying to regulate these clubs. It's hugely successful, Emily, as we discussed last hour. Why are they doing this when they're making the products and they're making the clubs less competitive? And I can see more defeats in court coming down the road at them if they carry on in this vein.
And Gary Neville has been speaking out about how his alleged harassment at Euston Station.
Yeah, look, I have some sympathy for him here, really, because he's talking here about football only. Well, I assume nobody should be abused in person at a train station when they're going home for having a view on football. Now, it's adversarial. This stuff goes all around the world, especially in the era of social media. And he said, and I'll quote, he said, "I was harassed 3 weeks ago at Euston Station. An Arsenal fan on Snapchat, he's walking with me, he's got me on camera, and he's abusing me, goading me. You're effing this, you're effing that." Now, look, lots of people can have a view on Gary Neville. They may disagree with his football, they may disagree with his politics, but I don't think anyone should be physically accosted at a train station.
Oh, yeah, when someone comes in your face with a camera in a public space,
Hang on a minute. I'm going to politely push back a bit here, right? Gary Neville's a very controversial figure. All right. Now, I don't want to see anyone getting abused or anything like that, and I'd say this as a Manchester United fan. But where was he when Nigel Farage was getting attacked with milkshakes?
No, quite possibly.
Has he spoken out about that?
Okay, fine.
Does he mind it when I rock up trying to do my job at a Palestine protest and I'm getting things thrown at me and
that's true.
I'm getting, bottles of urine hurled my way and all that? Does Gary Neville care about that? Or
yeah, it is a good point. It is an absolutely decent point, and fair and well made, as usual, Patrick. But I would say that he's talking specifically about football here. Yeah. He's not talking about politics. He's talking about fans who... look, we all watch the Premier League, right? I would say that his criticism of clubs is fairly well constructed, actually. Yeah. It's well thought out, befitting of someone who played 600-odd games for Man United, won the treble. Brilliant right back, we have to say.
Yeah. I agree. And again, I do want to come back. I don't want to see anyone actually getting abused. My point is, he doesn't like when it happens to him. Where is he when it happens?
But he also said it's exacerbated by social media. Now, he doesn't have to be on social media, does he?
Nobody does. He's got many a Twitter follower, doesn't he? Thank you very much indeed.
See you in a bit.
Aidan McGee, thank you very much. We'll speak again. But let's have a little tiny look at Harry and Meghan's Valentine's post. Why not? Side by side with the Prince and Princess of Wales. One in black and white, one in colour, one with a smooch, full-on smooch, one with a peck on the cheek.
But they're also being accused of massive hypocrisy.
Oh, absolutely.
Harry's got this sustainable travel, whatever it is, charity or whatever you call it.
Don't know if it's still open, but
still relentlessly flying by private jets. But, talking of private jets, I suppose, if you are in the market for a bit of winter sun, here's where's sunniest in Europe at the moment.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Heavy showers and thunderstorms affecting the Adriatic and Ionian Sea coastlines, and this could also bring a risk of snow to Croatia. This will be through Saturday and also into Sunday, where low pressure largely dominates. But as we head further west across the Mediterranean, it should be largely settled, bar a little bit of cloud and perhaps the risk of the odd shower across Portugal and northwestern Spain. But Madeira and Tenerife largely settled, and it remains largely settled into next week, with temperatures widely in the mid-teens.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial.
Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is...
You're
the failure
deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. OK, welcome back. You're watching and listening to GB News Breakfast with Patrick and Emily. So, joining us to go through what's making the news are journalists Stephanie Tecci and Andy Jones. Both of you, thank you very much. Tremendous to have you on the show. Look, shall we start with a very serious story, but it's the convicted Zimbabwean paedophile who's been allowed to stay in Britain. Now, Andy, every single day now, The Telegraph have made an editorial decision, I think, haven't they, to every single day be putting one of these stories on their front cover. It's just the latest one, isn't it?
Of course, and if they were trying to put them on every day, they'd soon run out, but there are so many that they never do. And this is a story of a Zimbabwean paedophile who came to the UK in 2007 with his mum, a British citizen, was granted indefinite leave to remain. However, in 2018, he was convicted for 5 years for sexual offences against different children and distributing images. What I find so disgusting about this, as well as the awful crimes he was committed of, he was ordered his deportation in June 2021, but he fought for the right to stay, arguing that as a gay white man and a convicted paedophile, he would face criticism in his own country. He also threw in the argument that he's got autism, ADHD, PTSD, every other letter going, giving him leave to remain. But what I don't understand about so many of these cases is, first of all, he was told to leave in 2021. He's still here. Why aren't we deporting people straight away? And why are people being given multiple attempts and appeals? I had a story earlier on in the week of a Nigerian woman successfully given leave to remain on her 9th attempt. I mean, in other criminal trials, in other court cases, you don't get so many.
Oh, but she joined a terror group.
If she joined a terror group.
She
pretended to join
What do you make of this, Stephanie? Because I read these stories and I'm just gobsmacked.
I just think it makes an absolute mockery of the system and mockery of victims. We're talking of a child here who's been abused. That is the big thing here. And the fact that he's been able to throw out all these labels, I'm gay, I'm all this, it makes a mockery of the system. And you think to yourself, are government actually awake and paying attention to what's going on here? And to make it worse, the taxpayer is going to have to fund his stay in this country. And I just think to myself, please, can we just get a better government who can fix this?
Though, these judges on these immigration tribunals, I mean, we heard from Hugo Benedict Norton-Taylor the other day, who managed to use the Ukrainian settlement scheme to settle family from Gaza in this country.
Well, and potentially thousands of other families.
I know people say, oh, you can't criticise the judiciary, or you can't criticise
We absolutely
lawyers and all
should.
this, but surely some of these decisions do not need to be made.
We're in a position where we've had Conservative governments and Labour governments, and they're saying that they're going to do one thing, and then the judiciary preventing them from stopping them. The other thing that I'll say as well is, what about our right to live free of somebody who's a paedophile? What about protecting our children? What about protecting women, as our government constantly talk about? And the other thing is, this guy's never going to be able to get a proper job in the UK, because no one's going to hire a convicted paedophile. We've now got to pay for all of his care and looking after him. We've got to pay to police him and make sure that he isn't doing it again. And our police are arresting people, getting them in front of a jury, getting them sentenced, and then they're told they're going to be deported, and then they get 7, 8, 9 different appeals.
Oh, he'll be on all sorts of disability
Playing a bit of
benefits.
devil's advocate here, my problem is when people like that do get deported, there's some way they can get back into the country. So maybe them actually being in the country, we can keep an eye on them, because once they go, next minute, 5 years, he's found a way back into the country.
It's a conveyor belt, isn't it?
And actually,
it really
just because you're deported doesn't mean you won't make your way back.
But the other thing is, as a deterrent, I mean, we see this with the Pakistani rape gangs, and we see this elsewhere, where people are convicted of appalling crimes and they're not deported. There has to be a deterrent of deportation. If people are thinking, look, I'm going to get thrown out, I'm not going to be able to see my kids again if they're stuck staying in Britain and you have to go, that's a deterrent. There's no deterrent for some of the most appalling crimes.
You would have thought.
Should we do something a bit different now? There's a new story and different stories. Stephanie, I'll throw this one over to you. What's this then?
It's the war, I like to call it the war of the smooches. So obviously, it's post-Valentine's Day. Yesterday was all about love and couples. Back in the day, we didn't really see the royals doing much public displays of affection, but it seems with this new generation, the Prince of Wales and the Princess of Wales, and then we've got Meghan and Harry yesterday, who both put images out of them smooching. Wills and Kate was quite nice, a little one on the cheek, but Harry and Meghan went for the full smoocher, which Meghan put out yesterday. She said, my love is working hard on the Invictus Games. I will forever eat burgers and fries with you, chips and fish and chips with you. But again, is it too much for us to take on with Harry and Meghan? I think it's sweet to see these couples are still genuinely in love, but I guess
I bet Meghan's always eating those burgers and chips, fish and chips. How does that fit with her new Netflix series?
Doesn't fit pretty well. But there is that question of whether it is a case of one-upmanship between these two couples, because Kate and Will released it earlier in the day, and then Meghan came out with hers later on.
So that's it, isn't it? So William and Kate did theirs first, little kiss on the cheek. Then later on, Meghan was like, have that. He snogs me on the lips.
Yeah, I dread to think what the next pictures are going to be. Look, there were rumours that their relationship might be in a little bit of trouble a few weeks ago, and then obviously it is pertinent for them to then do a big kiss to say, oh, actually, we're OK. Because obviously if they hadn't published anything, we'd be like, oh, well, why haven't they posted it for Valentine's Day? What's going on over there? But let's be honest, I don't care.
You know what, Meghan doesn't...
And most of you probably
Meghan
don't
doesn't
care
allow
too.
any old comments on her Instagram, so you can only... Your only option is to like the picture.
Well, that's the thing. I think we are going to be seeing more of Meghan at the moment. Now she's back on social media. She's been quite active this week during the Invictus Games. So I think we are going to be seeing more of Meghan and Harry, and they are seem quite eager to downplay any rumours of them no longer being in love, as this picture suggests.
The Queen and Prince Philip never used to post a Valentine's update of what they're doing on a smooch. Now, let's get back to that. Let's have some
If
stability.
anything, we had more respect for them for not showing us that side of their relationship.
Wasn't there, as well?
Yeah. And they were together for what? God knows, over 50 years. So maybe that's the key of it, not putting it on social media.
Stephanie, this American Riviera Orchard Montecito website still seems to be dead.
Oh, March
Anything
the 4th,
happening there?
Emily. March the 4th.
This is Meghan's brand.
Oh, yeah. She put it on delay because of the LA wildfires. So March the 4th, going to be Meghan in full effect.
You're right. I mean, LA...
Oh, the website as well?
Yeah.
Oh, OK. Well...
Well, LA, what? The theory being LA had already suffered enough. Is that what it is? You know, we've suffered enough. It's on fire. They can't possibly cope with... What is this? American Riviera Orchard.
This was the jams and everything.
Yeah, I know. I mean, what's the point of that?
Lifestyle
Well, we
brands?
should have been sent some jam, shouldn't we?
Yeah, possibly not from Meghan, though. I would have had to check that I hadn't been poisoned.
No love lost.
Yes, anyway. Well, look, I think we're possibly pressed for time this hour. Yes, we are. But we're going to be having a little bit of a discussion later on, because Harry and Meghan, well, Harry especially, has got this new, what is it, a new green travel...
No, so this was one of his projects. I think it's from quite a few years ago. I'm not sure if it's still going, but it was all about sustainable travel.
Right.
Yeah, Travelist.
Travelist.
And now they're flying private everywhere.
All about that. But, yes, Meghan dashed home, apparently, to see the kids. And she did so with a private jet. So are they eco-hypocrites?
Yes, well, we'll be seeing you guys in the next hour, won't we? We are going to be talking in a little bit, anyway, about Donald Trump. Last night, President Trump came out and said that Keir Starmer had called him and said he wants a meeting. He said he's arranged a meeting. Now, Trump's response to this was quite funny. He said, well, I've already spoken to him twice on the phone. Not sure what he wants. He called me, not the other way around. Quite dismissive, actually, in a sense.
He made him sound a bit needy, didn't he?
He did say that Keir Starmer wants to come in the coming days and weeks. So we're going to be having a bit of a chat about what we think Keir Starmer's going to ask him about, because you've got the Chagos problem, haven't you? You've got the free speech problem. America keeps, slamming us on the world stage, so...
He's got an Elon problem too.
He's got a massive
Elon-shaped problem. Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine it will be an easy conversation, free-flowing.
No, exactly. Well,
Very different world views, don't they?
Get your views coming in.
Yes,
GBnews at gbnews.uk is the old way. You could have done it. Or you can go to gbnews.com/your say, can't you? Which so many of you are. Thank you very much, everybody who is getting in touch on your say as we speak. A lot of people like Brian saying JD Vance is right in his assessment of freedom of speech. Caroline saying the people of Europe have been drowning at the hands of their leaders for years. And, we're going to be picking up on all of that soon. But I think we can give you a little bit of a heads up now on what the weather's going to be doing for you this weekend, so fingers crossed you can get out and about.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Over the weekend, we can expect outbreaks of rain, some hill snow, also some ice at times, but it is going to gradually turn milder from the southwest. Here, though, is where we're likely to see quite a cloudy and wet start across the southwest parts of Wales, central and northeastern parts of England. Could see some snow across northeastern parts too, which also brings a risk of ice. The best of the brightness likely to the far northwest of Scotland, but it will also eventually brighten up across parts of Devon and Cornwall too. For many, it is going to be a chillier day, but starting to turn slightly milder across parts of the southwest, particularly by the afternoon. So to end the day on Saturday then, plenty of clear skies across the southwest, so likely seeing quite a nice sunset, but that's where it's going to turn chilly overnight, likely to see some patchy frost. Elsewhere, there's plenty of cloud around, so quite a murky evening on offer, low clouds, some outbreaks of rain and drizzle, and still a risk we could start to see some snow, particularly around North Sea coasts, mainly across high ground, though we could see some flurries to lower levels too. Plenty of clear skies to the northwest of Scotland. Here, once again, we're likely to see some patchy frost. Then overnight we see this area of cloud and rain slowly shift its way northeastwards. As it does tend to fizzle out a little bit, but still going to leave plenty of cloud. Still a chance we could see some drizzly outbreaks and still a risk of snow to higher ground, particularly in the northeast. But largely dry and clear across the southwest and across the northwest of Scotland. But here it is going to be chilly with that risk of frost by the time we reach the morning. As this area of cloud and rain continues to push northeastwards, there's also a chance we could see some freezing rain along this feature. So once again, a chance we could see some ice. But for many across Wales, southern parts of England, a drier day on offer compared to Saturday, though a return of the cloud and rain from the very far west, which will affect Northern Ireland later. And for most, another chilly day on offer, but still mildest across the southwest. Bye-bye.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Want to be one of 2 lucky Great British Giveaway winners? That's right, you could win one of 2 prize bundles, which includes a brand new iPhone 16, £500 in shopping vouchers to spend in your favourite store, and an incredible £10,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. What would you spend that cash on? For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
A woman of 53 has believed for 18 months she was in an online relationship with Brad Pitt.
I think we're seeing pictures. So these are the pictures that she received that made her believe that she was in this relationship with Brad Pitt.
And you'll see that some of it is in hospital because the scammer was claiming that he was suffering from cancer. This was playing very much on her emotion. So this is a divorcee who lived in Mauritius. She'd received a £700,000 divorce settlement, or £650,000 divorce settlement, I should say, and £700,000 has been taken from her through this scam.
Yeah.
As she was becoming, every time she became suspicious, the money was taken for payment of charges on gifts that she never received, and then hospital fees. There was lots of emotions being played into there. Now, as somebody, I'm a rom-com writer by trade, so I write romantic fiction. And one of the books I've written has actually been about somebody who did online dating, got herself into a whole heap of trouble. Not quite. She wasn't in a relationship with Brad Pitt, but she met somebody dodgy. So because I've written that book, I've met a lot of people who've come up to me and said, "Oh, it's happened to me."
It's scary in this digital age, isn't it?
They've lost $700,000, but somebody has tried it on. Somebody my question is, would a man go 18 months in a relationship online without seeing somebody and keep it going? Or is this feeding into this neediness of a particular demographic of a woman who that's better than anything else she got going on in her life, was what was being fed to her over the internet?
And then maybe a little bit of her knew, but she kind of just suppressed it because she
was hoping it was Brad Pitt.
Her daughter apparently for a year was saying, this can't be true, come on, think about it. But she just fell for it. But I just wonder, it's a very sad story. She's obviously now getting a lot of hate and ridicule as well.
Because she's been on French TV and she's had a huge amount of pushback from it.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Well, it is a very good morning, everybody. Welcome along to breakfast. So, J.D. Vance blew the lid off European leaders and Keir Starmer, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. He said there is a threat from within that European leaders should be concentrating on, not just external threats like Russia and China. And he also singled out Britain for its state of free speech.
And what I worry about is the threat from within, the retreat of Europe from some of its most fundamental values, values shared with the United States of America. In Britain and across Europe, free speech, I fear, is in retreat.
Well, incredibly strong words, isn't it? But that comes as Boris Johnson has piped up as well. He's urging President Trump not to leave Ukraine behind. Catherine Forster's been interviewing him.
And so what Trump is trying to say to the Europeans, to us Brits, to everyone, is man up and step up.
Yes, optimism from Boris Johnson, but that is not shared with most European leaders. A lot of unhappiness about what J.D. Vance said. Olaf Scholz will be arriving here shortly, and Volodymyr Zelensky also.
OK, and Donald Trump, well, he's revealed that Sir Keir Starmer has very much come to him seeking out a meeting. Is the Labour leader desperate to salvage that special relationship?
He asked to come and see me, and I just accepted. It was his request, not mine, but...
Yeah, we're going to be talking about that. A lot to talk about there. But more migration lunacy. I'm sure you might have heard it by now. If not, well, here it is. Reports of a Zimbabwean paedophile being the latest person allowed to stay in the UK by these ridiculous immigration judges because, oh, can you guess what? He might have faced a bit of hostility if he returned home. Good, he should, shouldn't he?
Good. And is Meghan the Duchess of hypocrisy? Yes, after joining Harry at the Invictus Games and lecturing the world on the environment, don't they? She finds the time to fly home on a gas-guzzling private jet.
Oh, this is gold. I love this. So, a CEO at JP Morgan has been caught on a leaked audio recording absolutely slamming young staff for working from home. Take a listen.
And don't give me this work from home Friday works. I call a lot of people on Friday. There's not a goddamn person to get a hold of.
It was Manchester City 1, the Premier League 0 after an independent tribunal yesterday ruled in favour of the Premier League champions in a legal battle over sponsorship deals. We'll look at what it all means later this hour.
Good morning. A cloudy and cold start for many of us, including a risk of snow and ice in the northeast, but it should turn brighter later. To find out where, stay tuned and I'll have all the details.
All right.
Okay.
Well, there we go. And it's just gone 8 o'clock. I am Patrick Christie.
And I am Emily Carver, and this is GB News Breakfast.
So, yesterday was Valentine's Day. And, you know, I'm
Hope
sure...
everyone remembered.
Hope everyone remembered. Well, you're not still alive, probably, if you didn't, because I bet she's had a go at you. But, anyway, so we one of the things that we did, before we talk about more serious things, of course, one of the things that we did was we went to Bridget Jones and watched the film.
Yes, thank you. That was a very nice surprise.
Oh, well, it was lovely. Yes, I enjoyed it, apart from the fact that, actually, we didn't enjoy it that much because there was a couple that were next to us the whole time talking through this film.
Yeah.
Talking through it.
Yeah, so it started every now and again. You know, you can put up with that. Maybe they needed to say something to each other. But then as the film was developing, as the narrative, the plot was thickening, there were a lot of, you know, intense moments.
Bit emotional.
Moments, quiet moments.
Yeah.
The yapping just got louder and louder, didn't it?
Well,
and they didn't care. They did not care one iota.
So do you want to tell the viewer what happened, the listeners what happened, or shall I?
Well, I'll tell them first. Patrick goes, are they annoying you as well? They're annoying you as well.
Yeah.
I go, yeah. And then I go, so I say something, I say, shh. And then I go a bit louder, I go, shh.
Yep.
And absolutely no reaction. They just continue as if I hadn't gone, shh. And then what did you do?
I threw my popcorn at them.
No, you didn't throw your popcorn. You threw my empty popcorn box, and I had to pretend it was an accident.
Yeah.
Because you can't behave like that. You know, even if they're the most annoying people in the world, you can't do that.
I'm sorry, but it's
What if
ridiculous.
they've got a paper cut?
Stay home and watch Netflix. Stay home and watch... We're not having this. You know, people are paying... It's a lot of money now to go to the cinema. It's a lot of money to go to the cinema to go and sit there and have these two yapping over the top of it.
But this is the problem. You know how people are complaining now about people FaceTiming in public, about how people play music in public, which I must say you sometimes do.
Yes, well...
no, you sometimes watch your little Twitter videos on, and, you know...
No, I'm sorry, but it's just not on. It's etiquette, isn't it? You can't go to a cinema, you're on your phone and you're talking away. Just watch it.
I remember Dawn Neeson started a bit of a debate a couple of years ago about she thinks that people should be able to sit through a 2-hour movie without eating.
Without eating at all? Well, I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't go that far.
It's not commercially viable. It's not commercially viable. My nephew actually goes to Greggs beforehand and avoids...
Brings them in?
Yeah, he does, because he avoids... He's a student and he's on a budget, and so...
Good for him.
Oh, yeah, I don't see anything wrong with that.
No,
but we were at an Everyman where they can bring you everything you like.
Yeah,
You can have a margarita.
Nice. So, but those two... I don't know, but they're talking through it. I'm sorry, but if
Yes, do you think standards have gone down?
Definitely, yeah. It drives me nuts too. I mean, actually, the worst was in New York once, where I went to see a film and a guy came in with a ghetto blaster and had it playing.
No.
Yeah, and I didn't feel strong enough to ask him to turn it down.
It's a bit intimidating. So everyone just sits there, everyone's thinking the same thing, and it's just...
I'm sorry, but...
Tyranny of the minority, isn't it?
I stand by it. You get a bucket of popcorn thrown at you if you sit next to me and start talking over the film.
You were acting the Colonel, weren't you?
Then I was stressed because I was, oh, God, what's Patrick going to do next?
Get arrested. Anyway, moving on, top story time. So, the threat from within. The Vice President has launched a scathing attack on Europe and on Britain at his Munich Security Conference speech yesterday.
Yes, he accused governments and leaders of abandoning the values that have held Europe together since the end of World War II.
The threat that I worry the most about vis-a-vis Europe is not Russia, it's not China, it's not any other external actor. And what I worry about is the threat from within, the retreat of Europe from some of its most fundamental values, values shared with the United States of America. In Britain and across Europe, free speech, I fear, is in retreat.
OK,
Well, there's J.D. Vance, strong words. And, unfortunately for us, he's especially concerned about the state of our country, in particular the state of free speech.
Well, unsurprisingly, there was a huge backlash, of course, wasn't there, from the usual types. Guy Verhofstadt, remember him? Well, he dismissed the Vice President of the United States of America as having no legitimacy. And the German Defence Minister has slammed his remarks, again, about free speech as being totally unacceptable. I won't do the accent this time. Totally unacceptable. Yeah, we can't... So, sorry. You could talk about free speech in Europe, but you can't say that. Anyway, here's Catherine Forster, GB News' political correspondent in Munich for us. Catherine, yeah, controversial of yesterday, but there's stuff happening today as well, isn't there?
I know, it can't be
Sorry, Patrick, I didn't quite catch you, but to tell you what's happening right now, we're just outside at the conference where we're likely to see Olaf Scholz, the German Chancellor, arrive any minute. He will be speaking in the next 20 minutes or so. After that, it will be Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Huge concern, of course, here from Zelensky and across Europe about what Donald Trump's presidency means for Ukraine and European security more broadly. Now, I spoke to Boris Johnson yesterday for GB News. He was quite optimistic. He was quite upbeat. He said Trump isn't going to betray Ukraine, but Europe simply needs to step up or man up, as he said, and pay much, much more for our defence. But a lot of unhappiness, too, about the Vice President, J.D. Vance's comments yesterday, as you mentioned, some branding them unacceptable because what European leaders wanted and expected to hear was talk about threats from Russia, from China, reassurances, basically, that the US has Europe's back. There was only a few words on that, but most of the speech was devoted to pretty much saying that Europe was losing track of what was important and cracking down on free speech. Vance also drew a very direct line between European leaders allowing millions of migrants into Europe over the last few years, since 2016 specifically, when Angela Merkel, the then Chancellor, allowed over 1 million in and said, we can do this. And the horrific attack just less than a mile away here on Thursday, where a car driven by a failed Afghan asylum seeker rammed into a crowd, 30 people injured. This sort of thing is happening in Germany over and over again. This was not what leaders here wanted the Vice President to focus on. And in Germany, there is an election just about a week away. Looks like somebody very important might be arriving now. And the AfD on the hard right, very, very happy about what J.D. Vance has said, but a lot of other people not. Just looking to see who's getting out now. Car in the way, I can't quite see. But anyway, we will be here all day bringing you the very latest.
Yes, it does look as though there are perhaps some very important people arriving behind you. Catherine, thank you so much for bringing us the very latest from Munich. Here we can see a number of black smart cars, I think you'd say, coming in that look like they may well have some leaders in them, or at least some bureaucrats as well in those cars, perhaps arriving at the security conference there. We'll bring you the very latest again with Catherine Forster.
A load of people funded by taxpayers in a variety of different countries who do not like the people that fund them. So there we go. Anyway, on that note, well, we've got a clip for you now. So this
we do.
I first saw this quite late last night, so I think it landed quite late. So this is President Trump. And he was doing a conference yesterday, and he revealed that Keir Starmer, our Prime Minister, has been on the phone to him, begging him for a meeting. Should we have a little listen to this?
Asked for a meeting, and I agreed to the meeting. We're going to have a friendly meeting. Very good. We have a lot of good things going on. But he asked to come and see me, and I just accepted his asking. It was his request, not mine. But, you know, I met him twice already. We get along very well. He's a very nice guy.
Well, we're joined, of course.
Not sure about the tone there.
A bit dismissive, I think,
a little
isn't
bit dismissive, which, you know, some people might find it a little bit funny, but it's not great for us, is it, really? It's not great for us, is it? I don't know.
Depends which way you look.
Well, should we ask Piers Pottinger what he makes of it? Thank you very much, Dee, for joining us again. What do you make of that? Donald Trump there suggesting that it's very much Keir Starmer knocking on his door rather than vice versa.
Well, it does look that way because, I mean, Starmer, the one thing doesn't seem to have any grasp of is diplomacy. That's only second to his absolutely no grasp of politics either. But, I mean, what's he doing? I mean, he's on the back foot. He has a foreign secretary, by the way, who you'd think would be involved in some of this, who we have heard absolutely nothing from.
Nothing.
David Lammy, a man so ignorant it's terrifying. And Starmer, I mean, a decent Prime Minister would be saying to us, in our country that he supposedly leads, why he's going to see Trump, what he's intending to get out of it, and hopefully achieve a great deal for Britain. We haven't heard any of that. He's on the back foot with Trump. He's on the back foot with Europe. He's been and seen all these European leaders, as he said, to reset the relationship. He's come back with zilch, nothing. And now we've got a situation where he's going on bended knee to Trump, I suspect, to beg not to put tariffs on, because Trump has implied any country that has VAT on American goods is in for it, and that would be £24 billion hit to us.
Well, this is the thing, Piers. We should be, as Britain, be in quite a unique position to be able to negotiate with the United States. We're no longer within the European Union. We don't have to negotiate on their terms. But you see, should be able to take advantage of this as a Brexit dividend.
But Trump and his colleagues are all pretending the relationship is fine, and Trump is playing lip service to this. But, of course, all the things they said about Trump, which were actually really offensive, Trump doesn't forget these things. He's not a man who forgets. Look what he's doing in America. He's actually taking revenge on all the people who had a go at him in a big way. Now, I think that Trump is pretending at the moment to go along with the special relationship, but he is not going to forget. And don't forget, we've also got an ambassador who I'm not sure has been finally approved yet, but he has been approved, I think, Mandelson. But he was a European commissioner. Which is a red rag to Trump.
Well, we also call Trump a fascist. Now he's saying he admits to taking it wrong. I can't get around the idea. Ed Miliband looks like he kind of sleeps upside down in a cocoon, doesn't he, really? But he is a slippery customer, a shapeshifter, and I mean that both positively and negatively. But when it comes to the idea that Starmer's going to be going over, it seems, to meet Trump, I wonder if this could backfire significantly for Starmer, because we've got JD Vance, as we've been playing all morning, slamming Britain's for freedom of speech issues, for all that. Elon Musk has obviously got stuck right into Starmer before. There's going to be some kind of press conference, I would have thought, with Starmer and Trump in the White House at some point being asked questions by journalists. That is going to be like shooting fish in a barrel for journalists there. You set Trump up to say what he really thinks. And Starmer, who I cannot for the life of me understand how this guy ever won a court case. Because clearly he did, because he was very good at it. But he can't deviate, can he, from a script?
And I mean,
Trump's there. Can you imagine him slating it?
In that kind of press conference, it'll be very hard for Starmer to avoid answering questions. He does it all the time here, and partly because the leader of the opposition is useless at attacking him.
Imagine what Trump's going to say. He left his borders wide open.
I mean, Starmer has got so many targets on his back, and Kemi fails to hit any of them, sadly. And, you know, it's down to Nigel Farage to lead the opposition to this appalling government. But Starmer, I mean, goodness only knows what's going to happen when he does meet Trump. It's not, I fear, going to be good for Britain. And I think it'll be very hard for Starmer to put a good gloss on it.
Well, Chagos, yes, that should come up, shouldn't it? I mean, when they had their initial call, it sounded as though absolutely nothing of any meaning actually came up.
But Chagos...
Don't you remember, Ukraine didn't, Chagos didn't, all sorts of things didn't.
But Chagos, for example, I mean, the Labour Party's own minister, Chris Bryant, has said that this is wrong. I mean, they're in such a mess, this government, it's extraordinary. Last week, they put Jackie Smith on to defend Rachel Reeves, and she herself had to resign over her own parliamentary expenses scandal. I mean, it's absolutely preposterous, the shambles this government is. Yet we are not putting them on
Well, thank goodness there are people like you with long memories to remind us of, you know, previous failures of some of these politicians that have returned to the fore. You know, that are representing the government now. Piers Pottinger, thank you very much indeed.
Pleasure.
Political commentator.
Well, so just to put the other side of it up, I suppose Starmer will be saying he's doing his best to resurrect this special relationship by repeatedly trying to meet with the President of the United States.
He needs to meet with him. But it would be nice if Donald Trump was a little more excited by the prospect.
Yeah, but I don't blame you.
No, but I mean...
Would you be excited if Keir Starmer's coming around for dinner, everyone? Gosh, let's get excited. Anyway, GB News, of course, here.
Did he ever find out if he's a pescatarian or a vegetarian, or it seemed to change, didn't it?
Well, it probably will change.
Wouldn't know what to cook.
No. Anyway, we would like to hear what you think. So every day we are running our poll of the day, and today we are asking...
Is JD Vance right to say free speech is in retreat in Britain?
We'll bring you live results throughout the day. I think we're revealing those results ultimately on Nana Akwia's show later today. We are. So for
we absolutely are.
Go to gbnews.com/poll.
I'm just seeing if I can see what it currently is at.
Oh, here we go. Go on. She voted. Emily's voted on it.
99% yes so far.
OK, there we are. Not many shades of grey in the poll. But anyway, right, let's have a look at some of the other stories fizzing their way into our newsroom.
Go on then. Well, Hamas has released 3 more Israeli hostages in the latest ceasefire swap in Gaza. Yes, Israel are handing over 369 Palestinian prisoners in return. There were fears earlier this week that the deal could collapse after President Trump issued a ceasefire ultimatum to Hamas, warning all hell is going to break out if the hostages were not returned. But there you go, big news there, breaking news out of the region.
It looks like, you know, it's a start again, isn't it? In other news, Pope Francis remains in hospital for bronchitis treatment. Apparently he's in a stable condition, though does have a slight fever. He's 88 years old. He was admitted after struggling with breathing issues, but has continued public engagement until Friday. But now apparently meetings have been cancelled until at least Monday. It's unclear how long he'll be in hospital.
And the Attorney General, he's rejected calls to review the 52-year sentence for the Southport murderer Axel Ridder-Cabana. He's ruled there is no legal basis to increase that sentence. Yes, the 18-year-old was jailed in January for murdering 3 young girls, attempting to kill 10 more. The government says the case marks a line in the sand as ministers outline next steps to prevent such tragedies.
Let's check in a bit with your weather as well. It's Honor Krizik.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed Heat Pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Over the weekend, we can expect outbreaks of rain, some hill snow, also some ice at times, but it is going to gradually turn milder from the southwest. Here, though, is where we're likely to see quite a cloudy and wet start across the southwest parts of Wales, central and northeastern parts of England. Could see some snow across northeastern parts too, which also brings a risk of ice. The best of the brightness likely to the far northwest of Scotland, but it will also eventually brighten up across parts of Devon and Cornwall too. For many, it is going to be a chillier day, but starting to turn slightly milder across parts of the southwest, particularly by the afternoon. So to end the day on Saturday then, plenty of clear skies across the southwest, so likely seeing quite a nice sunset, but that's where it's going to turn chilly overnight, likely to see some patchy frost. Elsewhere, there's plenty of cloud around, so quite a murky evening on offer, low clouds, some outbreaks of rain and drizzle, and still a risk we could start to see some snow, particularly around North Sea coasts, mainly across high ground, though we could see some flurries to lower levels too. Plenty of clear skies to the northwest of Scotland. Here, once again, we're likely to see some patchy frost. Then overnight we see this area of cloud and rain slowly shift its way northeastwards. As it does tend to fizzle out a little bit, but still going to leave plenty of cloud. Still a chance we could see some drizzly outbreaks and still a risk of snow to higher ground, particularly in the northeast. But largely dry and clear across the southwest and across the northwest of Scotland. But here it is going to be chilly with that risk of frost by the time we reach the morning. As this area of cloud and rain continues to push northeastwards, there's also a chance we could see some freezing rain along this feature. So once again, a chance we could see some ice. But for many across Wales, southern parts of England, a drier day on offer compared to Saturday, though a return of the cloud and rain from the very far west, which will affect Northern Ireland later. And for most, another chilly day on offer, but still mildest across the southwest. Bye-bye.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed Heat Pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
OK, well, earlier we told you about one GB News viewer who won an astonishing £50,000 in the Great British Giveaway. So if you want a bit of the action and want to be one of the 2 brand new winners, you'll get a new iPhone, some shopping vouchers and £10,000 in tax-free cash.
It's the cash, really, isn't it?
Yes.
That's what you want.
I don't know. Shopping vouchers.
I want the cash.
Cash. Here's the details.
We're doubling your chances to win in our latest Great British Giveaway, with 2 fabulous prize bundles up for grabs. There's 2 lots of a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash. You'll also receive a brand new iPhone 16, along with £500 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite store. And the best news is 2 lucky winners are going to win. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. 1 entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, there you go. Now, this is one of your favourite bits of the show today, isn't it?
I love it. I love it. I love it, because this is a CEO losing it. I love it when, like, real kind of proper business people lose it. You can sense the ties being ripped off, the jackets there, something's getting thrown around.
Love a bit of leaked audio, don't we?
Oh, just a meltdown. I have enough of them. But anyway, here's the CEO of JP Morgan teeing off on what he thinks is work-shy youngsters.
And don't give me this work from home Friday works. I call a lot of people on Friday. There's not a goddamn person to get a hold of.
Great.
Can't get a hold of anyone on a Friday. A goddamn Friday.
Yeah, I love it. Good. Give him a rocket up the backside.
Well, we're going to be debating that next, because some people think, actually, no, Gen Z, they are hard-working. Misunderstood.
Yeah,
some people think that. This is GB News Breakfast.
Get back to work.
With Patrick and Emily.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there short and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Well, welcome back. You're watching and listening to GB News Breakfast with Patrick and Emily.
Right, so JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon has slammed employees who've petitioned to stop the company's new ban on working from home.
Yes, in a rather animated town hall meeting, Dimon demanded more efficiency with a special nod to the Gen Zers. Here's a quick snippet.
And don't give me this work from home Friday works. I call a lot of people on Friday. There's not a goddamn person to get a hold of.
Yeah, good. And before I get stuck into Gen Z, all of our production team here pretty much are Gen Z. We're not talking about them. Why? Because they're in the office, they're working hard. This is all the work-shy, work from home. Oh, I've got so much anxiety lot, isn't it? Anyway, to debate this, we're going to be talking about whether or not they are work-shy, Gen Z.
Whether they're to blame, you know, whether they're work-shy. We're joined by former Conservative MP Miriam Case and, of course, GB News presenter and broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy. OK, good morning to you both. Lizzie, I think you agree with this CEO, don't you?
I totally agree with him. I applaud him. I was so happy to hear what he said. I totally agree with everything he said. I mean, we're breeding a nation of hermits who want to stay in their pyjamas, do work from home at their own convenience, but get the salary. I'm sorry, I have two boys in their early 20s. I've instilled a work ethic into them, and I cannot bear to hear the excuses. You know, I don't want to go today. I'm going to get triggered if I go outside. I need to warn someone before I get a phone call. All of this namby-pamby stuff. I'm worried about our economy. What's going on? This has to stop. And we need more like JP Morgan saying this, enough is enough.
Well, Miriam, I suppose just to put the other side of this up, you know, if you do work from home, maybe you get to spend more time with your family, and that could be quite a nice thing.
Yeah, I do think there are circumstances where working from home makes sense. I think especially now we have so many open offices, it can be hard to concentrate on certain tasks sometimes. So I think there are circumstances where it is a good idea, also possibly for parents. But I do broadly agree with the boss of JP Morgan that it's not conducive to good work, to hard work. But I think what the other guest, sorry, I've forgotten your name, just said is absolutely true. Lizzie, you brought up your boys to work hard. You've brought up your children to be conscientious, to work hard, even when nobody's looking. And so I think the question we need to be asking is, why are so many people in Gen Z not conscientious? I don't think it's just Gen Z, by the way. I think working from home has given a lot of people an excuse to do less work when no one's looking. But there does seem to be a particular problem with Gen Z. And you can see that in the stats of the number of Gen Z, young people, who are now claiming disability benefits for mental health reasons. It's almost doubled in 10 years. That's not happened in any other age group. So whilst I think we're absolutely right to tell people to get back to work, we also need to look at the roots of why are we bringing up our generation to be so unconscientious.
Well, what is that for you, Lizzie? What do you think that is? Do you think we've mollycoddled them? Is this a natural progression from deciding not to have winners and losers on sports day?
Yeah, it is all of that. But I think COVID has had a lot to do with it. I think, you know, the younger generation got used to staying at home. A lot, you know, didn't go to school. All those lockdowns, which I totally disagreed with. I think that's had a huge effect. And sadly, it has affected their mental health. You know, they're not sociable. They'd rather stay in their rooms. You know, they get triggered by words and going out. And I think, you know, sadly, we've model-collared them. And look at the economy at the minute, thanks to Rachel Reeves. We need to get out there. It's so positive to be in a workplace, you know, bouncing ideas off each other for your mental health, being, you know, sociable, going for a drink after work and discussing the day. You know, we're losing all of that. And it's really sad. And I can't bear it when I see my friends, you know, son the other day in his pyjamas, midday, doing his work from his room. You know, I'm like, what's this about?
Yeah, they're living their lives through screens is obviously not good for mental health. And as Miriam says, we've got then the added pressure of so many young people being on disability benefits now for things like ADHD and anxiety, which is, to me, just sounds crazy. the amount of money that we're spending on this and the amount of people's lives who just aren't going to progress in the right direction. But Miriam, is there some truth to the argument that actually a lot of Gen Zers are looking at the state of the country, looking at the economy, and they're not making the link between hard work and progress in other areas of their life? So they see that even if you work really hard, you're not going to be on a good salary and you're not going to be able to get that house.
Yes, I think that's true. I think there's an element of previous generations were brought up to believe that going to work was about your community and your society and building a greater country, rather than now we teach children that their career is for them, for personal fulfillment. Of course, it should be both. But you can quite understand when your first job is something rather unfulfilling, that you become demoralised because everything you've been brought up to believe turns out to be false. And so I think that's true. But I think Gen Z are also demoralised generally, partly because social media and schools, quite frankly, have told them that our country's terrible, our history's terrible, the world's going to end because of climate change. Now, that's not happened before, where a young generation have been brought up to be so negative and so pessimistic about the future. So I think that is true. But there's a lot that has changed in the world over the last 20 years. Think about, half of children now experience family breakdown. We know that has an enormous impact on people's mental health. Family sizes are a lot smaller, and actually having lots of brothers and sisters is really good for knocking the edges off you. That's not happening anymore.
Yeah, I mean, so many Gen Zers are...
Say one thing?
Very quickly, Lizzie, very quickly.
I work for a man called Richard Desmond. You might know him, a big media mogul. And I remember in a room and someone walked in with flip-flops and he threw them out. Have standards, have respect, and have good work ethic.
Yeah,
and I remember never seeing anyone being thrown out of a room for wearing flip-flops.
I used to work for Richard Desmond, and then I worked for Calvin McKenzie, and had a brief stint in therapy, and now here we are. So anyway,
did you well though? Did you well?
Yeah, no, I'm very grateful. I'm genuinely very grateful for both of them. Anyway, thank you very much, and see you both very soon. So take care, all the best. Thank you for this.
A tough boss who shows they also care about you.
Yeah, in a way. All right, that's former Conservative MP there, Maria Cates, and Lizzie Cundy as well, GB News superstar.
Yes, still to come, a legendary pundit says colleagues must fear the sack as he reveals abuse from fans. That's next. This is GB News Breakfast with Patrick and Emily. Your favourite pundit?
Oh, Gary Neville Flitner.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Lee Anderson's Real World, Fridays from 7 p.m.
That's football. Well, it's the hope that kills you.
It does. It gives you highs, it gives you lows. I mean, if you're an Everton fan at the moment, you probably had far too many lows. But as you know, I'm a Nottingham Forest fan.
Well, you must be having a huge high.
But, you had one of the greatest footballers ever to grace the game, right? And that was Dixie Dean.
Yeah, absolutely. William Ralph Dean. Didn't like being called Dixie, but that was his nickname. And he was born in 1907. He was my grandfather's best mate. I'm an Everton shareholder. I've been, attached to the club all my life, and so was my father, so was my grandfather, our greatest ever player.
So back in the day when players like Dixie Dean were playing football for big crowds in, a proper...
72,000.
Yeah, a proper working class sport back in the day, weren't it, football? Not like it is today. You've got to be pretty wealthy to afford a ticket.
Even in the 70s, right, and I've seen some, I do like looking back on the football that I watched as a kid. Even in the 70s now, I've seen pictures of the turnstiles, as we used to call them, with a sign at the top, 5 shillings for the Eastern Terrace. 5 shillings. Yeah. Last time I turned down a ticket to go to a football match was Arsenal, who wanted me to pay £830 for a seat in an executive lounge. And though I could have afforded it, because I've worked all my life like you, I just thought at that point, that's ridiculous.
Well, you should have told him you were Keir Starmer's security man. You'd have probably got him for nothing.
Yeah, well, that's a good idea. Yeah.
But you go back to the the 1930s and 1940s, even the 1960s and 70s. The footballers would walk to the ground and play a game, and then walk back and go for a few beers in the pub.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Okay, well, welcome back. It's 8:37.
It is 8:37, yes. You're listening to Patrick and Emily on Breakfast. And what have we got now?
Maybe watching us too.
Yeah.
It's time for the sports.
That's
of course it is. We're broadcaster Aidan McGee, who's appeared in the studio for us.
Again?
Aidan. Again? Yes, again. Go on then, tell us. What should we be talking about today?
Can I talk to you about Chelsea? Just because they were absolutely thrashed last night at Brighton and Hove Albion. Their nemesis, they were knocked out of the FA Cup down at Brighton last week as well. They're in danger of dropping out of the top 4. Brighton's last league game resulted in a 7-0 defeat at Nottingham Forest, who you mentioned a couple of hours ago having a good season as well. Now, look, sides fall out of the top 4 all the time. It's not taken as read. It's completely competitive. That's as you'd expect in the Premier League. But this is a club that spent £1.5 billion on players.
Yeah.
You know, this is a club who have lost they've won 2 of the last 8 matches. They didn't register a shot on target last night, and they look completely out of sorts. They don't have a striker on their books who's fit. Now, if you spend all that money, and £445 million of that £1.5 billion was spent on forward players, and there were no strikers in that side. No wonder they didn't register a shot on target. And you have to be asking questions about the manager. You have to be asking questions about the training, because why are the players getting injured all the time? They're not the only club to be suffering that particular fate. Tottenham are struggling with that at the minute. And you just have to question now, what on earth does £1.5 billion buy you in modern football? The sums of money have gone absolutely ballistic.
It's insane, isn't it? I mean, it is insane. It is insane.
Without doubt. And I think they'll be lucky to get their money back on a lot of those players. Now, look, they're still in the top 4. They haven't dropped out as a result of last night's match, but there's some big games today. Arsenal already ensconced in the top 4. You've got Aston Villa knocking on the door, Fulham, Bournemouth, Brighton, of course, last night are not too far off it either. Newcastle well poised as well. They're playing against Manchester City this afternoon at 3 o'clock. And you have to wonder what the future holds, A, for the manager and for the direction of the club, because I think a lot of people are talking about this as not a full-blown crisis necessarily, because they're still in the top 4, but after the start they had, to fall away in that fashion, not very good at all.
Everton are doing well now. Moyes is back as well, aren't they, to be fair? I've just seen that fixture pop up on the screens there, Palace versus Everton.
Yeah, 10 points from 15 available. And that, I think, will pretty much secure their Premier League status right now. And they have to be in the Premier League, as all clubs do, because they're moving into a new stadium next season, which is in excess of 50,000. You cannot have that maiden season in a new stadium. And Everton haven't been relegated in decades.
Yeah.
So
you going to any of these fixtures?
Yeah, I'm not going to. I was at Coventry earlier in the week watching QPR.
Yes.
I've had my fill of football, but...
You have. Look, I think... Are we seeing you again in the next hour?
Yes, I think you are.
Can we get stuck into Gary Neville then, please?
Well, of course we can. Yeah.
Thank you very much. All right. Okay,
Why not?
He gets under your skin, doesn't he?
He's piped up, hasn't he, saying, oh, no,
like Gary Lineker.
Pundits get too much grief. Well, all right, you also get paid a lot of money to dish out your opinions. But anyway, still to come, Bridget Jones is back. We've got a cinema-related story for you, but here's a clip of the film.
Memories that will never leave us.
I like you very much. Just as you are.
Oh, I just find it so nostalgic. We're also talking about a video that surfaced deterring Albanians from coming to the United Kingdom.
Yes, so this video, the British government now has decided to try to tell Albanians that Britain is a bigoted, racist hellhole that's full of filth, right? So don't bother coming.
I mean, I really don't think that's the best tactic. Also, it's not very nice for, you know, us Brits, is it, really?
It's also completely nullified by the amount of videos that Albanians send to each other of them dealing drugs in Britain and razzing it around in Ferraris. So, you know, there's that. But first, in search of some winter stuff, I wonder what the weather's like in Albania.
The Maldives of Europe.
Maybe we'll find out. Here we go.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean all clear skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Heavy showers and thunderstorms affecting the Adriatic and Ionian Sea coastlines, and this could also bring a risk of snow to Croatia. This will be through Saturday and also into Sunday, where low pressure largely dominates. But as we head further west across the Mediterranean, it should be largely settled, bar a little bit of cloud and perhaps the risk of the odd shower across Portugal and northwestern Spain. But Madeira and Tenerife largely settled, and it remains largely settled into next week, with temperatures widely in the mid-teens.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Welcome back to Breakfast with Patrick and Emily.
Yes, and we have with us journalists Stephanie Tucci and Andy Jones to see what's making the news this fine morning. Shall we start with this story about our NHS? And this is Andy. NHS hires diversity staff on double the salary of junior doctors. Now, Andy, it wasn't too long ago that Wes Streeting said he was going to cut all this stuff out.
Yeah, Wes Streeting, Health Minister, said boldly he was going to get rid of expensive ideological hobby horses, which is where, you know, roles for doing the touchy-feely soft toy stuff that, like, diversity roles. However, this isn't walking the walk. One London Trust is currently advising offering a role for $91,000 for a diversity officer. South West of England is offering a role for £122,000 head of diversity. And obviously, anyone who knows a junior doctor will know we need more junior doctors, and they start on only 36,000.
Which is mad.
The interesting thing, look, I am absolutely for meritocracy. I'm absolutely for everybody having a fair say and employing from all different backgrounds wherever they are. But the NHS is already very, very diverse. I mean, anyone who's ever been to a hospital would see that. Everyone wears their lapels and their badge pins projecting their political views and their backgrounds. But the thing is, people want the NHS to be care first and politics second. And that is not being borne out by these roles.
Exactly.
Stephanie, what do you think? Do you think we need these types of jobs?
No, not at all. I'm not about, like, tick-boxing exercises at all. I believe, you know, if you get a job, you have to get it fair and square. And with all this diversity, I think it gets used too loosely these days. And I think, especially with the NHS, which is primarily about healthcare, they need to come out and now say, how are these diversity jobs? Why do we need them? And how are they influencing the healthcare system? Like, I think when it does come, when people say it's hard to get a job because you are diverse, no one wants to feel like you're just being hired just to save face. You want to know that you're being hired because you've got the skills and you're actually making a contribution, especially to somewhere like the NHS.
Yeah, I think you probably have... you can probably get a degree now in diversity and inclusion, and these graduates are going to have to go somewhere. It seems like this industry is just... You know, it's just too big to get rid of.
To me, a role that pays £122,000 a year, you should have many years of experience and quality in that role. What are the qualifications for that role? What is it sort of, I had a department a few years ago, now everybody is maximum diversity. What was the outcome of that? How is this measured, and what are the qualities needed for this role?
I think it's a slap in the face for people who do jobs in hospitals, not just like junior doctors and nurses, but hospital porters, people who do the you know, a lot of the, they don't mind me saying this, maybe a lot of the grunt work in those hospitals, who really are at the coalface, you know, dealing with what's going on in A&E all the time. And some of the messier jobs, if you want to call it that, in hospitals, who I dare say are not on £91,000.
No.
But there's a couple of other stories during the rounds. This was interesting stuff, I thought, about political views in relationships.
Yes. A new survey by Ipsos has revealed that 42% of Britons feel that they cannot be compatible with someone who has a different political ideology to them and political beliefs. It interviewed over 2,000 participants. 37% said they could get along with a Labour supporter. 36% they could get with a Green voter, a Green Party voter. But 35% said they wouldn't date someone who would vote for reform. And I think it is quite interesting when you do come to relationships. Political beliefs, I feel, do play a big part on how you can get on long term.
Yeah, and I think we've got an issue because, and this is something that's reflected in the Western world in general, is that young men are going more towards the right, while young women seem to be loving the left-wing progressive type of politics. What's going to happen? You know, are they going to ever come back together, or are people just going to be single for their entire life? I don't know.
Over politics as well, and especially, I think, in this day and age, it is quite political heavy, and I think when you are meeting people now, you can kind of tell whether they are more left-wing leaning or right, or a bit of centre.
People wear their politics on their sleeves.
Yeah, they do, and I think if you are raising a family as well, it influences how you raise your children.
I think we've seen in politics where people didn't see Brexit coming, people didn't see Donald Trump coming, one, and then Donald Trump 2, they didn't see that coming either. It's because people live in echo chambers where they don't speak to anybody else, and they don't date with other people from outside their political views. We saw Labour MPs, Lucy Powell for one, wearing a "Never Kissed a Tory" T-shirt. I mean, what we need in grown-up adult politics is more consensus, not this tribal nonsense of that's a terrible idea purely because it's said by someone that's an opposite
young
party.
People on the Tinder and the Bumbles and all of these dating apps, they literally, a lot of girls especially, will put not dating Tories, don't apply if you're a Tory, you know, that sort of thing. As if, like, I don't know, they're going to get herpes as a result.
Oh, dear. I do think we need to have healthy conversations. I feel like, you know, you can have opposing... Sorry, I can't get over that. But you can have opposing beliefs, but just have healthy communications.
And of course, these young women, perhaps you were saying, their views will very much change the moment they start having to pay a bit more tax, or they've got children. Or suddenly they want to buy a house, and then they realise that their Labour council isn't doing anything to help them do that.
I don't know.
Well, basically, what I love about this story, it says that love does not conquer all.
Oh, well, there you go. That's nice. Well, it's not Valentine's Day anymore.
You know what?
So
You know what else is interesting? I would love to see a bit of a study on so you know, reform voters. I dare say, you know, quite like nipping to the pub every now and again. I would have thought. And you know, there is an argument. I mean, Nigel Farage actually. I've heard him talk a couple of times in private. I hope he doesn't mind me saying this, but he's of the view that reform voters, he thinks, and Tories in that sense, can have a bit more fun sometimes in their social lives. So I think, you know, all right, if you're going to get bogged down, can you imagine the kind of conversations that, you know, if you're, oh, I'd rather be with the Green, well, you say that, but when they're moaning at you by not putting it in the right recycling bin for the 7th time... Making you get the train on holiday as opposed to going, you think, actually, I've had enough of that.
I think also there's a lot of projecting of what people think their political values are, and then those aren't actually the political values that they have themselves. It's all, I care so much about the environment, yet a lot of these people will fly all around. You know, I care about lovely, pink, fluffy policies, and actually they don't live those policies themselves. It's projecting, I am a good person.
You have the baby, and all of a sudden it's gender neutral, and you think, well, hang on a minute, I would quite like it to, you know...
There's so much policing of speech, though, Stephanie, and it does make conversation a little bit tricky sometimes with people who consider themselves very progressive.
Which is sad. I just think, can't we agree to disagree? Even for me, I find the older I get, my political views are changing. So I realise that you do have to have room to navigate with politics, and it all depends who's leading the party at certain times. A lot of Labour supporters are like, I did not sign up for Keir Starmer, where someone who might not necessarily like Nigel Farage would be like, actually, you could do a better job. So you have to be open to things.
Yeah, a lot of people aren't as tribal as people think they are. No. You know, people do swap and change, chop and change quite a bit, don't they?
Can I just go to some GB views, I think, just to round off the hour, because we've got a lot coming in the next hour, so I just want to hear from you. They might as well scrap net zero with everyone jetting off everywhere weekly. Don't book a car, book a jet, says Sean. Well, that ties into something we're going to be talking about a little bit later on, in the next hour, actually, about Harry and Meghan having a debate, because Harry's got his big eco charities and all of this stuff. Well, they keep taking private jets everywhere. There's a bit of love in the inbox for me throwing popcorn up
there is, actually.
in the cinema last night.
You can't do that, though, guys. I mean, I'm sure you at home wouldn't. He just got a bit silly. But Richard says, a true friend tells you the truth without fear. Sometimes this is what you don't want to hear, but they tell you because they love you. This is the United States, and in this case, the Trump administration. Thank God for true friends. Is that how you see it at home? That it's a friend saying, you know what? You need to sort your house out.
Or are
they slagging us off?
No, there is a funny comment from Maltese Phil. He says, right-wing women tend to be much better looking anyway.
Oh, well, there we go.
I wouldn't say it. I wouldn't comment.
Well, you don't have to. Anyway, all right, OK, it's time, I think, for your weather now with... Thank you, sorry, thank you. It's time now for your weather with Honor Krizik. Let's find out what's going on.
A chilly start will give way to a lovely, warm afternoon. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Over the weekend, we can expect outbreaks of rain, some hill snow, also some ice at times, but it is going to gradually turn milder from the southwest. Here, though, is where we're likely to see quite a cloudy and wet start across the southwest parts of Wales, central and northeastern parts of England. Could see some snow across northeastern parts too, which also brings a risk of ice. The best of the brightness likely to the far northwest of Scotland, but it will also eventually brighten up across parts of Devon and Cornwall too. For many, it is going to be a chillier day, but starting to turn slightly milder across parts of the southwest, particularly by the afternoon. So to end the day on Saturday then, plenty of clear skies across the southwest, so likely seeing quite a nice sunset, but that's where it's going to turn chilly overnight, likely to see some patchy frost. Elsewhere, there's plenty of cloud around, so quite a murky evening on offer, low clouds, some outbreaks of rain and drizzle, and still a risk we could start to see some snow, particularly around North Sea coasts, mainly across high ground, though we could see some flurries to lower levels too. Plenty of clear skies to the northwest of Scotland. Here, once again, we're likely to see some patchy frost. Then overnight we see this area of cloud and rain slowly shift its way northeastwards. As it does tend to fizzle out a little bit, but still going to leave plenty of cloud. Still a chance we could see some drizzly outbreaks and still a risk of snow to higher ground, particularly in the northeast. But largely dry and clear across the southwest and across the northwest of Scotland. But here it is going to be chilly with that risk of frost by the time we reach the morning. As this area of cloud and rain continues to push northeastwards, there's also a chance we could see some freezing rain along this feature. So once again, a chance we could see some ice. But for many across Wales, southern parts of England, a drier day on offer compared to Saturday, though a return of the cloud and rain from the very far west, which will affect Northern Ireland later. And for most, another chilly day on offer, but still mildest across the southwest. Bye-bye.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day. right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
We're giving you not one, but 2 chances to win this month, with 2 prize bundles that include an incredible £10,000 in tax-free cash. But that's not all. You'll also get a brand new iPhone 16 and a £500 shopping voucher to spend at your favourite store. So why not be extra lucky this month? For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
People living with obesity are people, and they deserve the right for treatment and care as much as anyone else. What we need to understand is that obesity is a chronic condition or a disease, as some people call it. It's not a choice. And this is the bit that people really struggle with, is that people think this is a lifestyle choice and people have done this to themselves. What we now know is the science and the evidence shows us that this isn't a choice. People have genetic predispositions for living with obesity. What we need to do is be a bit more compassionate and caring to people that live with obesity and support them to make healthier choices, not actually just discriminate and tell them that they're doing something wrong when, you know, if I had asthma, for instance, you wouldn't be saying the same thing to me there. But then it's exactly the same.
Usually, if you're going for an operation of some form or other, there'll be often there is a criteria. So my mother, she had a knee operation. They wanted to make sure her blood pressure was right and all these things. This is, I mean, to hear somebody say that obesity isn't a choice just because you've got genetic predisposition to it, it's just exactly why people seem to be legitimizing being overweight. Ozempic has proved that people are overweight because they eat too much. Because Ozempic tells you to stop eating, it makes you think that you've eaten and makes you feel full, so you don't eat. You may be predisposed to anything, but you also have a large percentage of responsibility to make sure that doesn't happen. So absolutely, it is in the patient's best interests, because if you're overweight, it'll take you longer to heal. You're more likely to have complications, the same if you smoke, and also the outcomes are usually better. So for a smoker, if you quit, say 4 weeks before surgery, your 25%, your risk is lower of respiratory complications. So this is literally, of course, it's discriminatory, because you have to decide, you have to prioritise the people that are likely to survive the operations.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Oh, good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for tuning in to Breakfast with Patrick and Emily. Well, there's loads coming your way, including the fact that America's Vice President has blown the lid off Europe, hasn't he, Keir Starmer?
Yeah, he says that we're facing a threat from within. You know, it's all well and good, Russia, the threat from Russia, the threat from China, but actually a big threat is coming from inside Europe itself. US Vice President JD Vance, he pretty much derailed the Munich Security Conference, didn't he, with just one 20-minute speech. Could it reshape the West?
I've heard a lot about what you need to defend yourselves from, and of course that's important. But what has seemed a little bit less clear to me, and certainly I think to many of the citizens of Europe, is what exactly it is that you're defending yourselves for.
Yeah, we've let a problem in, and that problem, frankly, drove into a crowd of people outside Munich not so long ago. But Boris Johnson speaking out, isn't he now, urging President Trump not to leave Ukraine behind?
And so what Trump is trying to say to the Europeans, to us Brits, to everyone, is man up and step up.
A war of words breaking out now. Chancellor Olaf Scholz speaking in the last few minutes, saying about JD Vance's comments, we will decide for ourselves how we plan to proceed with our democracy. I will bring you more shortly.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and sorry, he can decide all he wants, but frankly, they've knackered Europe, haven't they? Donald Trump reveals that Sir Keir Starmer is now begging him to go over there for a meeting. Shall we listen to what he said?
He asked to come and see me, and I just accepted. It was his request, not mine, but...
OK, and tough times in England, apparently. That's the message we're sending to Albania, to migrants, potential migrants, in a new video campaign to urge them to rethink the move to Britain by portraying our country in a poor light. I mean, seriously, is this the best way? Why not just secure the borders?
Ridiculous. But it is the 80th anniversary of Victory Day. Well, it's fast approaching anyway. And we find out how a community in South Yorkshire is honouring our brave war heroes.
Well, indeed. And is Meghan, the Duchess of Hypocrisy. Yes, after joining Prince Harry at the Invictus Games, they like to lecture the world on the environment as well, don't they? She found the time to fly home on a gas-guzzling private jet.
Frozen and forgotten, an ice sculpture is unveiled outside the Tate Modern to remind us of the struggle that so many pensioners are facing this winter.
It was a Valentine's Day massacre for Chelsea last night at the Amex as they crashed to a heavy defeat at Brighton. And Gary Neville says abuse of football pundits is on the rise. Join me later.
Boo.
Good morning. A cloudy and cold start for many of us, including a risk of snow and ice in the northeast, but it should turn brighter later. To find out where, stay tuned and I'll have all the details.
OK, well, it's just gone 9 o'clock. Yes, it is now. I'm Patrick Christys.
And I'm Emily Carver, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Well, look, we've got a lot to talk about. We are doing the more serious stuff, so it's kicked off big time now, hasn't it? This UN Security Conference in Munich. We've got Olaf Scholz teeing off on JD Vance, all of that stuff. You know, as Europe...
Don't forget Guy Verhofstadt.
You know, they're getting called out for ruining Europe with woke, fluffy, liberal rubbish and throwing the borders open, aren't they? You know, and they don't like it up, but they're getting it. So there we go. We're also going to be having that debate about whether or not Meghan and Harry are eco-hypocrites. But talking of Meghan and Harry, I think we can play you a little clip now of Meghan Markle's Instagram because this has got, well, a rare snap of their children on it, I think.
L is for the way.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Where's the kids? Oh, right, there we go.
So it looks like they're making a little love heart breakfast of sorts, little strawberries chopped up, and you can see a little child there. That looks like it might be Lilibet in the pink top, and there you go.
Or, hey, we don't know what Archie identifies as, to be fair to me.
Look, what a wonderful mother making beautiful treats with her little children. Yes, do you follow Meghan on Instagram?
No.
Well, she's got 1.8 million followers.
She doesn't miss me, does she?
And she's released 6 posts already.
Yeah.
The first one was running along the beach saying happy 2025.
Classic.
And then there's one of her and all the wonderful stuff she's doing to help people in the California wildfires.
One of her dead dog.
One of her dead dog, yes. One of the Invictus Games, and of course the latest one is the smooch.
The big smooch, yes, indeed. So, look, we are going to be having a debate about whether or not they are frothing great big hypocrites, frankly, for...
Well, this is the problem. What
flying
do
around in private jets.
They don't just talk about, you know... Meghan is trying to rebrand herself as some sort of traditional wife who likes looking after the home and baking lovely goods and all of this. She's got a Netflix series coming out to that effect. But they do also like to get on the world stage, don't they, and tell us how to run our politics and things like this, you know, starting with social media regulation and trying to crack down on the internet and all this. And also, Prince Harry and his Travelist company or organisation, whatever you want to call it, that was set up to promote sustainable travel. But Meghan Markle can't take, you know, a commercial flight.
Or cycle. Yeah, well, there we go. Anyway, so we're going to be talking about that in rather a lot of detail, but I am fascinated by what's been going on in Munich. Well, it started, really, a couple of days ago because we had this terror attack, basically, where a failed Afghan migrant who was known to police drove into a crowd of people, several people, and loads of people injured, all of this. The latest in a long line now of attacks around Europe committed by people who shouldn't be here and who is known to police. Exactly. Then... they have this UN security meeting. JD Vance, the Vice President of the United States, stands up, gets stuck right into Europe, saying, you're talking about threats from China and from Russia. Well, hang on a minute, you've let a big threat in, haven't you? Multiculturalism's not working, immigration's been a massive problem. He went on to talk about free speech, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. He singled out a particular scenario in this country where a man, I believe, was convicted for praying within a buffer zone outside an abortion clinic. I mean, there is a question over whether there should be buffer zones, whether you should be allowed to pray silently. But the fact that they're singling out the Vice President of the United States, arguably the second most important person in terms of power in the world, singling out the United Kingdom as an example of somewhere where things are going wrong. Then we hear Donald Trump is being begged by Keir Starmer for some kind of meeting.
Well, and
it's
that,
not looking great for us, is it?
And then here we go, because Guy Verhofstadt then comes out, you know, remember him, the old buck-toothed liberal? Well, he's come out and gone, oh, well, you know, he's got no legitimacy, JD Vance. And now what we're hearing is that Olaf Scholz, the German Chancellor, has just piped up and said, you know, he's basically come back after JD Vance. So they're at war. They're fighting verbally with each other now, aren't they? Catherine Forster joins us now. She's actually in Munich for us. She can tell us exactly what's going on. Catherine, what's happening?
Yes, good morning. Well, Olaf Scholz, the German Chancellor, has been speaking just behind me. In the last half hour, we saw him arrive just a little while ago, and pretty much a war of words really has broken out between the US Vice President, JD Vance, and the German Chancellor at the very least, because JD Vance yesterday, of course, made those very, very critical comments about European leaders, about what he says is the suppression of free speech, highlighting the United Kingdom as the worst offender and Scotland in particular, but going on to talk about the millions of migrants that have been allowed into Europe over the last 10 years or so, starting, of course, with Angela Merkel back in 2016, saying we can do this and allowing a million migrants in that year. The failed asylum seeker that rammed into the rally in Munich, I was literally at the site this time yesterday, had come in 2016, and despite the fact his asylum claim was not accepted, he had been allowed to stay. So JD Vance very, very critical of Europe, and Olaf Scholz, the Chancellor, in a speech this morning saying we will decide for ourselves how we plan to proceed with our democracy, clearly taking a very, very dim view of interference from America, and then going on to talk about what Europe expected and wanted the United States to be focusing on here at the Munich Security Conference, which is Ukraine and the security of Europe more broadly. He has said that a dictated peace in Ukraine will never find our support, and also that Europeans will support Ukraine as long as is necessary, even beyond any peace agreement. Now, Boris Johnson, who I spoke to on GB News yesterday, seemed pretty optimistic about Donald Trump and Vance's plans for Ukraine, seemed to think that the United States were not going to betray Ukraine over this, but there is a lot of very, very real worry that perhaps America thinks it's going to go over the heads of both Europe and Ukraine and sort of try to work this all out directly with Putin. Zelensky will be speaking shortly. I expect he's going to make that very clear that that is not an option as far as Ukraine is concerned.
Catherine, thank you very, very much. Catherine Forster doing absolutely stellar stuff for us in Munich. Thank you, Catherine. I know you'll be there. So a couple of really interesting points there, actually. So Boris Johnson has come out and essentially said to Catherine, you can watch that full interview a bit online, I think, at GB News, has said, look, hang on a minute, people might be preempting what Donald Trump's doing here. Yeah. Don't start slagging it off relentlessly until you realise what this deal might be, which I think is a nice way of going about it, as opposed to just being orange man bad all the time.
Yeah, it does seem as though there's a lot of that going on. You know, you've got to actually wait and see what's actually going to come of it all before you then, you know...
What do you make of Olaf Scholz? Well, very shortly...
What do I make of Olaf Scholz? What, in general?
No, him coming out. So yesterday, JD...
Him coming out and saying it's unacceptable, these remarks from JD Vance.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, obviously, it's laughable, considering he's making points about free speech.
Europe will decide for itself how it wants to run its democracy. All right, Olaf, but what's happened? You know, what's happened to Europe? You've thrown the floodgates open to people. We've got terror attacks every other week taking place. We've got armed police at Christmas markets. People walk down streets right across Europe now, and you could be anywhere in the world. You could be anywhere in the world. I'll tell you where it doesn't look like. Europe.
Yeah, but you know what? What's bizarre is that Olaf Scholz was saying the very same the other day, after the horrific incident in Munich, where that man ploughed through all of those people. He said exactly the same thing. We need to deport these people and get them out of the country. So I don't know why he's so shocked by what JD Vance is saying.
Because they're sopping wet. They've knackered a continent. Let's have a little look, shall we, at what JD Vance actually said.
I've heard a lot about what you need to defend yourselves from, and of course that's important. But what has seemed a little bit less clear to me, and certainly I think to many of the citizens of Europe, is what exactly it is that you're defending yourselves for.
Well, very pleased to be joined now by the Director of the Centre for Migration and Economic Prosperity, Stephen Wolfe. Stephen, thank you very much. The breaking line now, really, is that Olaf Scholz has literally just hit back at JD Vance, saying, oh, we'll leave European democracy to us, we'll decide how to do it. I mean, JD Vance has had two key points, one on immigration, one on freedom of speech and our values. I mean, is he right, do you think?
Well, JD Vance is right, and Scholz is a hypocrite for being part of the people that asked Obama to interfere in Brexit. So it just shows exactly the type of people that JD Vance has called out, and called out quite rightly. You just look at Europe. Europe no longer looks like the continent that I used to travel to as a child. You can go all across places, and particularly if you pass through Paris, it doesn't look Parisian anymore apart from the buildings. But the enemy within is really the point that JD Vance is talking about. He's talking about those individuals that come to our European countries and commit vast amounts of crime, and then we can't deport them under Article 8 of the European Court of Human Rights. He's talking about the potential criminals who cause catastrophic destruction across our cities by driving into them, as Emily has just mentioned, in Christmas markets or in little events that people just want to attend to in peace. He has got the right answer to the problem that we've got, and Olaf Scholz is embarrassing himself by ignoring those facts.
But also he's contradicting himself. After the awful incident in Munich, where that man ploughed through all of those people, we find out he's a failed asylum seeker, very much known to the police for previous offences as well. I mean, that's a story we've heard in this country many a time, isn't it, Stephen? But he was then coming out and saying we need to get tough on deportations, we're going to send people back to Afghanistan, Syria, wherever. So he's talking the talk sometimes, but then doesn't want to hear it from JD Vance.
He doesn't want to hear it from the Americans because whilst it suited him because of the election next week in Germany, where he needs to distinguish himself from the left and make sure that he also looks more tough on immigration and crime in Germany so that the AfD don't take more votes, it's perfectly acceptable for him to do it in a local scenario. But when he's called out by the most powerful nation in the world who have our own interest at heart, that's the point. JD Vance and Donald Trump and the establishment that are now taking over in America, getting rid of illegal migrants from their own country, concerned about criminality, concerned about terrorism, have Europe's best interests at heart. And they're simply being hypocritical by ignoring that very fact.
Well, they are, but it's also perfectly exposed how we are lied to time and time again by our political class. Yet another attack, 5 terror attacks Germany's had in the last 12 months, all of them committed by asylum seekers, a couple of them by failed asylum seekers. And time again, Olaf Scholz stands up and goes, we're going to get very tough. And the second he's called out on the world stage and all his lefty mates are there with him, it's the opposite, isn't it? So lie to your own people, say the truth to all of the elites. But can I whiz ourselves on to another topic that I'm sure you're across, Stephen, is this. It's the case of a Zimbabwean paedophile. And it's every single day, the Daily Telegraph now is running a story on their front cover about a different kind of wrong-un that we can't deport. We've had a Pakistani paedophile, we've had a Nigerian terrorist, we've had a Caribbean lady whose Latvian husband doesn't like Caribbean food. Now we've got
Chicken Nugget Gate.
Chicken Nugget Gate. Oh, yeah, our friend the Albanian. But now we've got the Zimbabwean paedophile, and we can't deport him because in Zimbabwe they might take a dim view of paedophilia. Well, to that, Stephen, I would say we take quite a dim view of it over here, don't we? And should he not face a bit of persecution back home?
Well, I think he should suffer persecution the rest of his life if he goes out to try and take offences against children. There's nothing worse in this world than actually having a man or a woman or a gang of individuals abuse young children for their own pleasure and enjoyment. And I really don't care, and I don't think the ordinary public in this country care, what happens to those individuals after they've committed those offences. But what we also don't care about is the way that our governments and our laws are being abused to ensure that people can stay here. And the use and extension of Article 8 of the European Court of Human Rights that is intentionally there to protect family life at a lower end level from those who are abusing them politically, does not say at all that you can protect people who are sexual offenders, who are committing murder, who are receiving proceeds of crime. It actually says you can deport them. It's our own interpretation by our courts and our lawyers that are doing this.
Absolutely. And Stephen, sorry to interrupt, but just lastly, I really want to get your view on this video that's been doing the rounds, the government trying to put off Albanians from coming to this country by telling them that it's a dump here. Do you have a look at the video? Sorry.
I think we'll take the video. I don't worry.
Stephen,
we have to talk over it.
What do you make of it? What do you make of it, Stephen?
I just think it's an appalling abuse of public money, to be honest, rather than just protecting our borders and stopping them from getting here in the first place. That would make more logical sense than spending money on a propaganda program, which won't work, because we know that the Albanian gangsters who are importing their own criminals into many areas of the country are making vast amounts of money that they're sending back home, building themselves lovely houses, getting nice cars.
Look, mate, it's the TikTok videos of Albanians throwing £50 notes around, dealing cocaine in front of Ferraris and Lamborghinis is going to do a lot more to entice the Albanians over than whoever this chap is, who's been paid goodness knows what to chain smoke in front of a camera and talk about fly tipping. I mean, good grief. The state of this...
Oh, God, it's so depressing.
I have, however, long said that we should probably portray a giant Churchill sticking two fingers up on the White Cliffs of Dover. I'd rather see that than this, I think. But anyway... But anyway, Stephen, thank you very much. Stephen Wolfe, it's the Director Centre for Migration and Economic Prosperity. What's next? What have we got now?
I mean, that would be quite something, wouldn't it, Patrick? Yeah. I'm just trying to imagine that on the White Cliffs of Dover.
Yeah. Or just airdrop leaflets over Calais, just telling... The thing is, just tell them that stuff isn't true. Like, you think you're going to get a house, you're not. There's people in a roundabout just outside this office here. I spoke to one of them. So he's from Sudan, and he's come all the way across Africa, Middle East, Europe...
Thousands of miles.
...to end up on a roundabout in Paddington. And I spoke to him, and he says he wants to go home. Interview that guy.
He can't go home, probably, because he probably doesn't have a passport,
they don't even know he's here,
right?
so
they
that's
don't know he's here.
Yeah,
there you go, he's stuck on a roundabout in Paddington.
Interview that guy, beam that out around them.
And what's he doing for work?
Well...
Possibly working illegally.
Well,
I don't know.
It's Deliveroo, he's got a bike. But
yeah, well, that's the thing.
Right.
Anyway, at GB News, we love to hear what you think. Every day we'll be running our poll of the day, and today we're asking...
Is JD Vance right to say free speech is in retreat in Britain? Well, so far, 99% of you think that that's true, and just 1% disagree. But anyway, the final result...
That 1%. Make yourself known.
Good for you, though. Good for you. Anyway, final result will be on Nana Aquia Show, won't it?
It absolutely will. For all of our latest polls, do go to gbnews.com/poll.
Oh, got a bit of weather now with Honor Krizik.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Over the weekend, we can expect outbreaks of rain, some hill snow, also some ice at times, but it is going to gradually turn milder from the southwest. Here, though, is where we're likely to see quite a cloudy and wet start across the southwest parts of Wales, central and northeastern parts of England. Could see some snow across northeastern parts too, which also brings a risk of ice. The best of the brightness likely to the far northwest of Scotland, but it will also eventually brighten up across parts of Devon and Cornwall too. For many, it is going to be a chillier day, but starting to turn slightly milder across parts of the southwest, particularly by the afternoon. So to end the day on Saturday then, plenty of clear skies across the southwest, so likely seeing quite a nice sunset, but that's where it's going to turn chilly overnight, likely to see some patchy frost. Elsewhere, there's plenty of cloud around, so quite a murky evening on offer, low clouds, some outbreaks of rain and drizzle, and still a risk we could start to see some snow, particularly around North Sea coasts, mainly across high ground, though we could see some flurries to lower levels too. Plenty of clear skies to the northwest of Scotland. Here, once again, we're likely to see some patchy frost. coast. Then overnight, we see this area of cloud and rain slowly shift its way northeastwards. As it does tend to fizzle out a little bit, but still going to leave plenty of cloud. Still a chance we could see some drizzly outbreaks and still a risk of snow to higher ground, particularly in the northeast. But largely dry and clear across the southwest and across the northwest of Scotland. But here it is going to be chilly with that risk of frost by the time we reach the morning. As this area of cloud and rain continues to push northeastwards, there's also a chance we could see some freezing rain along this feature. So once again, a chance we could see some ice. But for many across Wales, southern parts of England, a drier day on offer compared to Saturday, though a return of the cloud and rain from the very far west, which will affect Northern Ireland later. And for most, another chilly day on offer, but still mildest across the southwest. Bye-bye.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
OK, well, it falls on me to tell you about the latest Great British giveaway. We have two fabulous prize bundles. So there is £500 worth of shopping vouchers, and there's also an iPhone 16 involved. But this is what people enter it for, isn't it? This bit.
This is the £10,000 of
cold, hard,
cash.
tax-free cash.
Tax-free, that's important.
The cash. Get off this cash, Adrian.
None of it will go to Rachel Reeves.
No, Rachel Reeves can't get her hands on this, so why don't you enter?
Don't miss your chance to be one of two big winners in our latest Great British giveaway, as we have two prize bundles that have to be won. First, you'll win a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash to spend however you like. You'll also receive the very latest iPhone 16, and we'll send you on a shopping spree with £500 to spend in your favourite store. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
OK, well, still to come, Meghan Markle's. She's been getting busy on Instagram. There's even a glimpse of little Archie and Lilibet. Look at that. How delightful.
How delightful.
Tasty?
Probably is making me very hungry. But anyway, that is next. We're having a debate about whether or not they are eco-hypocrites, though. You will not believe what they've done. So stay tuned.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
OK, welcome back. It's now 9:27. You're watching and listening to GB News Breakfast with Patrick and Emily.
So, the Duke and Duchess of private jets. It's reported that Meghan Markle flew home from the Invictus Games in Vancouver with a very luxurious jet, a journey that's estimated to have cost a cool £24,000 and creating 6 tonnes of CO2.
There's 2 tonnes more than most people create each year. So, given all their green initiatives and lecturing, are Meghan and Harry eco-hypocrites?
Can I just apologise to everyone, including the guests we've got in the studio? I believe we are just going to have to go to Volodymyr Zelensky, who's about to talk at the UN Security Council in Munich. Here he is.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Thank you for your word. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your invitation. Dear ladies and gentlemen, at the start of conference, every country usually shares its stance, priorities, whether officially, openly, or through informal talks with journalists, with partners. And this year, a country that was not even invited still made its presence known. A country that everyone talks about here, not in a good way. The night before Munich this year, a Russian attack drone struck the sarcophagus covering the ruined 4th reactor of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. It was a modified Shahid drone, Russian drone, a technology passed on to Russia. Its warhead carried at least 15 kilograms of explosives. And we see this as a deeply symbolic move by Russia, by Putin. Just recently in Ukraine, we discussed the crucial role of nuclear energy in keeping the country running despite Russia's constant attacks on our Ukrainian energy infrastructure. And we are now preparing a project to expand our Khmelnytsky nuclear power plant. Just one day before the Munich, I was there on the plan, and with involvement from American businesses and including Westinghouse. The project will strengthen the energy security of not just Ukraine, but our entire region of Europe. And we also recently spoke with President Trump and his team about nuclear energy and Europe's largest nuclear power plant, our Zaporizhzhia plant, which is currently occupied by Russia. And Russia responded by sending a drone to hit Chernobyl's sarcophagus which holds radioactive dust and debris. And this is not just madness. This is Russia's stance. A country that launches such attacks does not want peace. They don't want. It is not preparing for dialogue. Almost every day, Russia sends up to 100, even more, Shahed drones at us each day, and regular ballistic missile attacks, and a steady increase in aerial bomb strikes. But that's not all. This year...
All right, that's Volodymyr Zelensky there. I think that's enough of that, actually, for now. And if you want to watch highlights of what he has to say, no doubt you all can watch that online.
We'll bring them to you later, I'm sure, as well. But let's return to our debate on whether Meghan and Harry are eco-hypocrites. Now, we ask because Meghan Markle left the Invictus Games a couple of days ago via private jet. Now, they have stood on platforms where they've talked about the importance of environmentalism and the like. So joining us to debate this is the director of the Climate Media Coalition, Donncha McCarthy, here in the studio. And we also have the royal journalist, Ellen Coughlin. Thank you very much to you both for joining us. Donncha, I'll start with you. You do think that they are hypocrites?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very good that Meghan and Harry are advocating sustainable travel, and they've set up a charity promoting sustainable travel. But that the next step means you've got to practice it yourselves. Practicing what you preach is really important. But I think the interesting thing about this story is the figures. 6.6 tonnes for one flight. Most people don't know what a tonne of carbon is. 6.6 tonnes is 13 years. 13 years of the average household's electricity emissions in the United Kingdom.
In one flight to Vancouver, she's done that.
And so you can't do. So I think what we have to remember here also is the real problem with climate change, one of the big problems we don't talk about, is the carbon footprint of the super rich. The top 1% of humanity emits more emissions than the 70% poorest. So we really need to tackle the carbon emissions of the super rich, tax them and use the money from them to enable the poor to live greener and more efficient lifestyles.
What I will say about that is this 1% thing, there's actually... I would rather we've narrowed that down even more, because I think if we could find the figures on the top 0.25%, by the way,
you have a point there, Patrick.
I'm convinced it's them, really.
Yeah. Do you know what the carbon footprint of Abramovich's super yacht?
Right, this is it, right?
It's 13,000 tonnes. One yacht, 13,000 tonnes. That's 26,000 years of electricity.
Donncha, but surely it'd be better for us to just improve technology so his super yacht isn't creating all of this carbon emissions. But Ellen, what do you think? Do you think we're being too harsh on Meghan and Harry?
Slightly. Like, carbon emissions are inevitable for prominent couples like Harry and Meghan, just like it is for William and Kate and for the King and Queen. There will be trips that inevitably they have to go on private jets with, but we all know that they're all really prominent in the space of global warming. The whole royal family talk about it. They have incentives, they have charities, like you said. So they're doing their best. It's you... Harry and Meghan often fly commercial. Harry said in an interview before that 99% of the time they will fly commercial, but the odd time, inevitably, they will have to fly on a private jet. They have shown their commitment to reducing their carbon footprint by offsetting the emissions. Also, Harry has set up his travel charity called Travelite to help companies be more
Isn't that part of the
travel.
hypocrisy, though, to be fair, Ellen? With respect, it's all very well and good calling Elton John and getting him to plant some trees for you, but at the same time, now they're banging on about how to live our lives, telling us how to live our lives. They've done something for Netflix, which was all about polo, which is the most opulent thing that you can possibly do. That's all about wealth and status. She's hopping on private jets. I mean, they're just hypocrites, aren't they, Ellen, really?
I don't think they're hypocrites. Like, just because you wash out your yogurt carton in the morning, does it mean you can't hop in your car to drive to work? We're all just doing our best. And that's what's happening here. The odd time they have to use a jet to get around.
There's no such thing as amazing work to do. You don't have to use a private jet.
Love it. I love
crazy.
It.
All she had, William and Kate flew commercial to the event in Boston. This is a North American flight. She could have travelled commercial. commercial, not a problem. But what we have to do is actually, in Britain, 50% of people don't take a flight at all. And it's a patriotic thing for people to holiday in the UK. What we forget is the rich are actually losing us £26 billion in tourism every year by employing people abroad in the tourist industry. What we need to be doing is Harry and Meghan should be encouraging people in Britain to be holidaying in Britain. So we support Britain and we stop trashing the planet.
We also need to do up Morecambe if we're going to do that, to be fair.
But Harry and Meghan have often flown commercial. We've seen it time and time again. Harry flew commercial back to the UK for the King's coronation, and they went to Norway on a Norwegian flight. So they do that all the time. It just doesn't make headlines.
They took 4 private jets in a week. Sorry, in 11 days they took 4 private jets. That is not compatible with looking after the planet. And actually, Harry's Travelist charity should actually be encouraging people not to fly, not to find the greenest plane. There are no green planes. So the concept of his travel charity is that is supposed to be sustainable. It's not really sustainable.
Harry did say that whenever he can, he won't, but it's security reasons and other reasons that we won't know about that they have to use the private jet. So there's obviously stuff going on behind the scenes because when they can, they do fly commercial.
OK, well, Ellen gives them the benefit of the doubt. Donica, not so much. Thank you very much indeed, Donica McCarthy and Ellen Coughlin. Thank you very much for that debate.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of thoughts. Don't have to share them now, then.
No, don't have to share them now, I suppose. Well, I'm just thinking next time we go on holiday, we should probably... Are we going to fly commercial? Are we?
I mean, unless you've got a private jet up your sleeve.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway,
which seems unlikely.
It's the point, isn't it? It's not
Ryanair, it is.
It's not a choice for most people. Anyway, right. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to talking about this, actually. We obviously care about pensioners. We obviously care about the winter fuel payment being cut for them. Well, somebody, a black cab driver, I believe, has decided to do a very special ice sculpture to honour them. We've got the man himself who's coming on to tell us about exactly what this means and why he's done it. So stay tuned for all of that. See you soon.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
As we kick off 2025, many of us might be thinking about a bit of a wardrobe refresh, especially if you're over 50 and you feel like the high street doesn't quite cater to you.
Indeed. That's where our next guest, Mel Tillett, comes in. She's in the studio with us now.
Mel, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I love that you are this accidental influencer. I love that you said that's the first time.
Yeah, it is. That's the first time I've heard it.
You can have that
for
free on
thank
GB.
you so much. It's quite true.
Tell us about your following. Obviously, an influencer that many people might typically think of would be someone in their teens, someone in their 20s, someone who's particularly social media savvy, using TikTok. Talk to us about your brand of influencer.
Well, our influencer, my kind of influence is over the older age group, the over 50s. For my business, I do a lot of live videos. I'll do them early in the morning at 7:30, which sounds ridiculous, but I know my ladies are up and about at that time having a cup of coffee or whatever that might be. And just being honest about day-to-day life. So my dogs are running about, my grandchildren are even sometimes in them, one thing and another. So it's just been purely by accident that I've got this really nice, loyal following, and I get lovely messages off ladies. I'll do things like, I'll tell them when I'm going for a mammogram, and I'll say, come on, everybody go for your mammogram.
That's brilliant.
All sort of health-conscious things. I've been a lot heavier than I am now, and I've slimmed down and lost some weight. I've been talking about that journey as well. And then ladies will ask me questions on the videos, and we chat about all sorts of different things. And now I'm getting messages every day, and people are loving the clothing ranges that we do. And it's just, I started off as a business, that's purely what I did, but it's turned out into this other, I get recognised places I go now, which is really weird.
It must be a huge benefit to your business as well.
We employ around about 50 people.
Wow.
And I'm quite open to my audience and saying, you know, while you keep buying offers, while you're loving our products and our clothing, you're keeping 50 people in jobs.
GB News, the People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome along. Thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in. This is GB News Breakfast with Patrick and Emily. And what we've got coming up now? Well, it's an ice sculpture of an older man living in poverty, and it's been unveiled at the Tate Modern. But this is for an issue that I know basically all of our viewers and listeners, and ourselves included, really do care about.
Yeah, the activity was organised by the charity Independent Age, and it's to raise awareness of the dire financial struggles facing some older people.
Rob Trueheller is a 68-year-old pensioner who the ice sculpture depicts. Now, he's had his winter fuel payment cut off following Labour's tax raid.
Yes, and taxi driver Rob Trueheller joins us now alongside the Head of Policy and Influencing at Independent Age, Morgan Vine. Welcome both. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Start with you, Rob. I mean, what does this sculpture mean to you then?
Well, it's there to... it's a focal point for people to look at and to understand that there's a lot of pensioners in poverty. You know, the winter fuel allowance, which was a mere spit in the ocean, really, £250 for each person, makes a heck of a difference when, you know, electricity prices, etc., are going up. And, you know, there's been a big push to get people to apply for their pension credits, but there's still about 800,000 people who missed out on that because they missed the deadline and what have you, which is an absolute disgrace in this modern world that we live in. You know, you've been talking about people riding around in private jets. Yeah. You know, how many pensioners would that have...
also as well, Rob, you know, and I'm not trying to... I don't want to, you know, drag up international affairs here too much, mate, but, you know, we've just played Zelensky there, and I'm very sympathetic to the cause of Ukraine, don't get me wrong, but one of the reasons our bills are so high at the minute is because in part because of what's going on over there. And for a lot of people now saying, oh, we just need to keep sending them more money. We've got freezing pensioners here, and maybe some people will say, well, we can do both. All right, I'm not quite sure how. But Morgan, can I bring you in now and just say, so talk to me about how this idea came about then, and what Independent Age does.
So Independent Age is a national charity, and we provide free independent support to older people living on a low income. We try and make sure that they're getting all of the money they're entitled to. And we also use the evidence that comes through our services and through the grants that we give out to try and work out some of the systemic problems. And one of those is that older people just don't have enough money to live on. As Rob said, they're not receiving the money they're entitled to, many of them. But even for those people that are receiving that money, it's often not enough to live on. So we think that there's more that the UK government and companies and others can do to try and improve the situation.
Yeah, and Rob as well, look, for me, there's this burning sense of injustice when it comes to people of a certain age in this country, where a lot of them have worked their whole lives, you know, got clean criminal records and all of that stuff, have paid their taxes, have done everything, and unfortunately now can't put the heating on. And I just find there's something immoral about that, Rob.
Well, I think so too. When the announcement was made, it was in the same week that the government decided to give the train drivers who are on £60,000, £70,000 a year a 15% pay rise, which, you know, is pretty disgusting when there's people who are sat in their homes with inadequate heating or heating that they can't afford to put on.
Yeah.
And, you know... Sorry.
No, absolutely. Just bring Morgan back in. I mean, how much of an uptick in elderly people getting in touch have you had since that winter fuel payment was taken away?
I mean, we have had a massive increase in calls. I think our calls have gone up about 300% since the announcement. Oh. And obviously we're doing the best that we can to try and make sure that people are getting all of the social security that they're entitled to. But as I said, for many people, and Rob's one of these, he's not entitled to pension credit, for example. So we think the government set the threshold too low. Pension credit, somebody would only be getting about £12,000 a year income, and to set the winter fuel payment that low doesn't seem like the right decision.
No, absolutely. Well, you know, fingers crossed this can just keep a bit of the pressure on. I mean, I hope it's something that might be reversed in a few years' time, but obviously a lot of damage can be done in a few years, can't it? And, you know, it's an age demographic where maybe, not in the case of you, of course, Rob, but maybe time is of the essence, certainly for some of the people I've interviewed over the course of the last few months, bless them, who are in their 90s, etc. But thank you very much, both of you, for coming on today and highlighting this issue and for everything. And I do seriously hope everything sorts itself out for you, Rob, and you can get exactly what I think many people watching this will think you deserve, frankly, mates. But,
well,
yeah, good luck.
We will continue. We will continue until this disgraceful thing is righted.
Yeah,
well, good to hear. Rob Trowler, thank you very much. And Morgan Vine from the charity Independent Age there.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's important to keep up the, you know, the awareness.
It is. Right.
Whether it's a nice sculpture or a, you know, protest.
Well, last night, Trump teed off a little bit, but he's now saying that Keir Starmer is begging him for a meeting. Trump doesn't seem too excited by the prospect there.
He asked to come and see me, and I just accepted. It was his request, not mine, but...
Oh, well, I'm delighted to say that we're going to be discussing that next with the Saturday Morning Live crew.
OK.
Good.
But first, though, if you're thinking of nipping away for a few days, maybe somewhere abroad...
On your private jet?
On your private jet, because it's a choice, anyway. There's the heated European holiday destinations for you.
I hope it doesn't rain.
Don't worry about it.
It'll spoil our holiday.
Relax, we're totally covered.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Heavy showers and thunderstorms affecting the Adriatic and Ionian Sea coastlines, and this could also bring a risk of snow to Croatia. This will be through Saturday and also into Sunday, where low pressure largely dominates. But as we head further west across the Mediterranean, it should be largely settled, bar a little bit of cloud and perhaps the risk of the odd shower across Portugal and northwestern Spain. But Madeira and Tenerife largely settled, and it remains largely settled into next week, with temperatures widely in the mid-teens.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here
we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Okay, welcome back. You're watching, listening to Breakfast with Patrick and Emily. Now, the Ukrainian President Zelensky, well, he's been addressing the Munich Security Council while we've been on air. Here is a short update on some of the things he had to say.
This is Russia's stance. A country that launches such attacks does not want peace. They don't want. It is not preparing for dialogue. According to both Putin and Lukashenko, Belarus now hosts banned weapons, medium-range missiles, and even nuclear arms. Putin clearly sees Belarus as just another Russian province now. And we need to be realistic. If someone is setting up a military launch pad, we need to ask, what should we do about it? And more importantly, what can we do before the next attack, the next invasion?
OK, let's just summarise this. So he's called for a European army and for NATO membership for Ukraine. Two pretty big things there.
And he's taking a snipe at Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. He says, we'll never accept deals reached behind our backs without our involvement.
Fine, OK, but then what happens if they pull the plug on the funding, though? So we'll never accept a deal. Yeah, we have had British defence ministers here in this country saying that, you know, he was trying to treat us like an Amazon shopping list. I'm sympathetic to the guy, but at some point it's got to be an end.
Other countries will have a say because of the amount of money, of course. Zelensky says North Korean troops are fighting Ukraine, are learning modern warfare, OK? And he's asked European leaders, if Russia launches attack or false flag operation, are your armies ready? Now, there's a big question mark over our army, isn't there?
We could fit all of our army into Old Trafford football stadium. So there we go. Anyway, right, we need to move on because... oh, yes, before we get to what's coming up next, we do have an announcement about my show on Fridays. Every Friday night for the 21st of February, we are going to be hosting a live studio audience show. So you can be a part of it. I want you to be a part of it. Bigger news, bigger debates, bigger opinions. So go to gbnews.com/tickets and you can get in the studio. So there we go, yes.
Will they be able to get involved?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely, yeah. The show will all be about you. We'll have a great panel, everything. But much more important than me banging on about myself. We've got two wonderful people coming up on the show next. Every Saturday morning live, coming up at 10 p.m. Sophie and Adam, what's on your show, guys?
10 a.m.
10 a.m. Sorry.
Tune in sooner than 10 p.m. or you'll miss us.
I'm used to being on in the evening.
You
Sorry.
are. That's exciting about the studio audience, though.
Be nice, wouldn't it? I think?
Yeah.
Give it a bit of zip, hopefully.
Tomatoes, aren't you?
Well, hopefully. You're giving them an idea.
They'll have to search them before they get into the studio.
Absolutely. So go on, what's on today?
We've got loads. So obviously we're going to cover what's just been said there in the Munich conference. We're going to talk about we've got sport. We've got a big debate coming up. Should public servants get a well-being day after having a bit of a tough day at the office?
And we've got some relationship advice. Given it was Valentine's yesterday with Dr. X and Dr. Vicky.
OK.
40th most powerful Westminster couple. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yes, bottom of the pack. Well, thank you very much for tuning in. Take care. I'll see you tomorrow at 6, I think.
Yeah.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Over the weekend, we can expect outbreaks of rain, some hill snow, also some ice at times, but it is going to gradually turn milder from the southwest. Here, though, is where we're likely to see quite a cloudy and wet start across the southwest parts of Wales, central and northeastern parts of England. Could see some snow across northeastern parts too, which also brings a risk of ice. The best of the brightness likely to the far northwest of Scotland, but it will also eventually brighten up across parts of Devon and Cornwall too. For many, it is going to be a chillier day, but starting to turn slightly milder across parts of the southwest, particularly by the afternoon. So to end the day on Saturday then, plenty of clear skies across the southwest, so likely seeing quite a nice sunset, but that's where it's going to turn chilly overnight, likely to see some patchy frost. Elsewhere, there's plenty of cloud around, so quite a murky evening on offer, low clouds, some outbreaks of rain and drizzle, and